Mr. Kelvin, ano ang trabaho mo sa OVP?
Isa po akong budget officer. Involved po ako sa paggawa ng budget proposal during budget proposal submission to DBM. And then during budget legislation sa mga hearing po ng Committee on APRO, gumagawa din po kami ng documents to be ready documents for the hearing.
Okay. Kanina may tinanong si Congresswoman Jinky kanina.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yung na-alter, no? Kasi sinabi kanina, walang budget, no? Walang nakalagay na budget para dun sa confidential fund o maintenance, no? Ng mga safe houses nung panahon ni VP Robredo. Tapos nung naging si VP Duterte na, nagkaroon na ng budget for maintenance ng mga safe houses. May kinalaman ka ba sa bilang budget officer, may kinalaman ka ba sa paglalagay ng budget na ito?
Specifically for safe houses, wala po, Mr. Chair.
Di ba sa'yo dumadaan lahat, lalong-lalo na pag mga request ng mga budget, siyempre may kinalaman ka sa paglalagay ng menu, pagdagdag ng menu, no? Sa budget nito.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. But in general sense po yung naging nakalagay sa letter as confidential expenses or confidential fund, wala pong breakdown na merong maintenance of safe houses.
So yung nakalagay sa budget ng OVP, na nakalagay doon is maintenance for safe houses. Wala kang kinalaman dito? Hindi ikaw ang naglagay dito sa inyong budget proposal?
Yes, at the time of submission of request, wala pong ganung specific na expense type or need, sir. Mr. Chair.
Paano to nailagay sa budget ng OVP kung hindi dumaan sa inyo? Yung maintenance ng mga safe houses?
Sir, Mr. Chair, the maintenance of safe houses is part of the confidential expenses. Yung umbrella term na confidential expense po, yung naging part ng letter. However, doon sa letter, hindi na po nakaspecify ano po yung mga menu or items under confidential expenses na paggagamitan ng confidential fund.
Sino ang naglagay ng menu na ito?
I have no knowledge po, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Kevin, no, responsibility niyo din sa bilang budget officer na mag-flag down, no, ng mga deficiencies or flaws pag meron kayo nakikita sa budget implementation ng OVP, tama po ba?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Sa paggastos ng mga pondong natanggap din ng OVP.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
May mga napansin ka bang irregularidad sa paggastos ng 125 million confidential fund ng OVP?
Wala po, Mr. Chair. I have no knowledge with regards to utilization. The budget division is mainly involved on the early phase po on the request of cash advance for confidential activities.
So wala kang alam, lalong-lalo na sa kung paano ni-utilize?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Kay Madam Rosalyn Sanchez, di ba po kayo ang pumipirma ng cheque? Kasama po kayo sa pumipirma ng cheque?
Mr. Chair.
Attorney Sanchez, you are recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. That is correct, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
So, tingin niyo po ba hindi kasama sa inyong trabaho na tignan kung ang mga pinipirmahan niyo pong cheque, naayon po ba o tama ang paggastos?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, at the time that the cash advance is issued, there is still no utilization yet. So nangyayari po yung issuance ng check at the start. So yung utilization phase po, hindi na po covered ng signature ko on the check, Your Honor, and also under the joint circular, Your Honor. It is not also part of my duties and responsibilities, Your Honor.
So hindi ka nagtataka kung paano pamamaraan ginamit yung mga cheque na pinipirmahan mo?
Mr. Chair, because I do not have knowledge as to how it was spent, I am not in a position also para po magtaka, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Tinedo,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
pumipirma po ba kayo ng Pumipirma po ba kayo ng yung tinatawag nating FAR o yung FAR?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Financial Accountability Report.
Yes, Financial Accountability Report. Pumipirma po ba kayo nun?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Meron po ba kayong pinipirmahan nun pagdating sa confidential fund?
Part po ng FAR, sir, is yung line item na or expense type na confidential expenses, sir, Mr. Chair.
So, nagsicertify ka, tama?
Certified correct po na may pondong nilaan sa OVP para sa confidential expenses at may pondo rin po na inobligate for the cash advance ng confidential activities.
So, wala rin itong kinalaman sa paggastos?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Kung tama ang paggastos?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Napansin ko din, Mr. Tinedo, na hindi kayo nakapag-disburse ng confidential fund, ang OVP, noong fourth quarter of 2023. Tama po ba?
Tama po, Mr. Chair.
Dahil dito ay may remaining balance o undisbursed balance ang OVP na 125 million.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tiniedo, kung tama ang budget planning at forecasting na isinasagawa ninyo para sa 2023 budget ng OVP, meron kayong inalot na 500 million na confidential fund for the entire year or 125 million each quarter. Hindi ba kailangan ng Office of the Vice President ang pondo na ito para sa fourth quarter?
Based po dun sa aming report, wala na pong sinubmit na request for cash advance for the fourth quarter. So hindi na po namin na-utilize or na-obligate yung remaining 125 million for fiscal year 2023 last quarter.
Hindi ka ba nagtataka kung bakit first, second, and third quarter may request na confidential fund ang OVP sa kanyang paggastos, lalong-lalo na para sa mga warehouse and safe houses. Pero pagdating ng fourth quarter, bigla itong nawala at hindi na ginamit ng OVP ang kanyang budget for confidential fund? Hindi ba nakakapagtaka yun?
Nakakapagtaka po, pero during the reporting po namin internal, binabanggit po namin periodically na may remaining pa na 125 million na available for the last quarter.
Bakit ka nagtaka?
There is a program budget na po for the entire year. So, and yung 125 million is for the last quarter of 2023. Significant siya na pwedeng makaapekto sa budget utilization status or rate ng OVP. Hence, kailangan ko pong i-report na may available pa.
Hindi ka man nagtaka dahil kawawa naman yung mga nasa mga safe houses and warehouses ninyo sa mga binibigyan nyo ng allowance ng mga intelligence officers?
At
Hindi ka ba nagtaka para doon?
At that time, Mr. Chair, wala po akong idea or knowledge kung paano ginagamit yung confidential expenses except those items na nakalagay sa joint circular. So, wala po akong basihan para pagtakhan kung paano yung mga safe houses, mga assets.
Tingin ko, may alam ka rin ba kung ano na nangyari sa mga rewards and supplies for the informants? Kung ano nangyari sa kanila? So, I guess, wala ka rin alam dito.
Yes, Mr. Chair, wala po akong knowledge.
Alam mo, Mr. Tiniedo, tingin ko, isa lang ibig sabihin nito, no? Dahil hindi dire-diretso yung pag-utilize ng pondo ng OVP ng kanyang confidential fund. Ang isa lang na ibig sabihin nito ay walang totoong programa na pinaglalaanan itong confidential fund. Kung kaya walang sinusundan na logic or forecasting ang budget para dito. At wala ring epekto sa ahensya na hindi nila nagamit yung kanilang confidential fund. Tingin mo po pwede ko bang i-ano yun? Isipin yon?
Sir, as part of OVP, may mga activities naman po yung OVP sa mga projects and programs. However, insofar as confidential activities is concerned, wala pong knowledge yung budget division. Lahat po kami doon. Kung paano ginagamit ang confidential funds.
Okay. Alam po ninyo, sa isang opisina, imposible pong hindi kayo nakakapagkwento-kwentuhan kung paano nyo nagagamit ang isang pondo. Dahil alam naman natin lahat kayo nakapirma dito. At obligasyon ninyo na siguraduhin na yung confidential fund ay nagagamit sa tamang pamamaraan. So, parang hindi ka paniwala na talagang wala kayong idea kung paano ito na-utilize. No? Kasi syempre, lahat yan, you affix your signatures. At kahit paano, responsable kayo sa kung saan paano ito nagagamit. Lalong-lalo na, ikaw, Madam Rosalyn Sanchez, yung iyong pirma ay nasa cheque. Ikaw, Madam Villa del Rey, kayo po ang accountant ng Office of the Vice President, na kahit paano, inaalam nyo rin, sigurado ako, kung paano na-utilize at nagagamit yung mga pondo na ipinagkakatiwala sa Office of the Vice President. Maaaring sinasabi ninyo na wala kayong direktang information o walang nagpupuntang mga papeles na dumadaan sa inyong opisina. Pero kahit paano alam ko na dumadaan sa inyo yung impormasyon kung paano ito nagagamit. Mr. Tiniedo, sa tingin ko, ikaw ang least guilty kung sakasakaling may nangyaring irregularidad dito sa paggamit ng confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President. At sana, kung may nalalaman ka, mas maganda, sabihin mo na. Kasi hindi naman titigil ang committee na ito na para mag-imbestiga, lalong-lalo na kung paano at ginamit, kung saan ginamit ang confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President. Nakita nyo naman, may mga ilang tao na nakapirma, pero iba-iba yung pirma. Hindi alam kung saan, paano ginamit, or kulang yung information, lalong-lalo na sa acknowledgement receipt. Patong-patong na red flags, yung nauungkat tungkol sa Office of the Vice President Confidential Fund for 2022 and 2023. Tila ba ginagamit ang confidential fund bilang sistema para mag-commit ng plunder or manguha ng pera sa pamahalaan. So, kailangan nating malaman kung saan nang napupunta o paano nagagamit ang confidential fund na ibinibigay natin sa ating mga opisina. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Congressman Konghun. With the permission of the chair, I just want to clarify something.
Please continue, Deputy Speaker Suarez.
Ms. Rabago, tama po ba? Kanina tinanong po kayo kung meron po kayong knowledge tungkol sa confidential funds, and your answer was?
I don't have any personal knowledge on the utilization of the confidential fund, Your Honor.
Kayo po, Mr. Tenido.
Yes, sir. I have no personal knowledge insofar as the utilization and the liquidation of confidential funds.
But in the preparation, meron?
Yes po, during budget request, budget proposal,
Okay, but pagdating sa actual disbursement, wala ka nang kinalaman?
wala na
doon?
po, Mr. Chair.
Sa pagplanning, sa detalye, kung paano mabubuo yung utilization, wala
Wala na
kang
po, Mr.
kinalaman? Ha?
Wala na po, Mr.
Kasi
Chair.
ng part ng planning yun, hindi po ba?
Part lang po ng planning yung physical and financial plan. Once po may ganun na, sir.
So lump
Mr. Chair.
sum siya, in other words?
Opo,
Okay.
ganun.
Sa inyo po, Attorney Sanchez.
Same, Your Honor, and as mentioned earlier, my participation is limited to the issuance of the, signature on the check for the cash advance, Your Honor.
And kayo po, Ma'am Villa Del Rey, accountant.
Yes, same din po, Your Honor. Ang participation ko is the issuance of cash advance and processing of disbursement voucher.
So, accountant, budget officer, finance officer, tapos ngayon OIC chief of staff, correct?
Your Honor, I am not the OIC Chief of Staff at the moment, Your Honor, and I only held that position for a few days,
Yes,
Your
yes,
Honor.
okay. And I'm just making sure that my memory serves me right. So the the finance officer, the accountant, and the finance, and the budget planning, all of you are of the position na wala kayong kinalaman. No personal knowledge, correct? Therefore, only two people have knowledge about the confidential fund. The Special Disbursement Officer and the Vice President. Is that correct?
Mr.
Please
Chair.
answer, Attorney Sanchez.
Mr. Chair, based on the documents, Mr.
No,
Chair,
it's a yes or no, ma'am. Is that correct?
I cannot say, Your Honor, because as I mentioned, I do not know the details of the confidential fund, so
No,
I
okay.
do not have information on who has knowledge.
Ma'am, okay, you're starting not to make sense. The question is simple. Kanina sinabi ninyo, pagdating sa liquidation, wala kayong kinalaman. Ang bahagi ninyo nandito sa planning and documentation proper. But sa actual liquidation at utilization, wala kayong kinalaman. So ang tanong ko, sino ang may kinalaman dito? O may alam dito? Kayo ang finance and administrative officer. You have full knowledge and control over the operations of the Office of the Vice President. That is part of your responsibility. Now, my question is, who has knowledge and information on this?
Mr. Chair, in terms of knowledge and control over the operations of the
No,
office.
ma'am. When it comes to the confidential funds, my question is, who has knowledge over this?
When it comes to the confidential fund, Your Honor, it should be the Special Disbursing Officer, Your Honor.
And that would be,
Ms. Gina Acosta, Your Honor.
okay, under the office, under the supervision of,
She is assigned under the Office of the Chief of Staff, Your Honor.
and the chief of staff being,
That is Attorney Zuleika T. Lopez, Your Honor.
and who does the chief of staff answer to?
The Vice President, Your Honor.
Being whom?
Vice President Sara Duterte, Your
So
Honor.
nandun yung hierarchy.
Yes, Your Honor.
Kasi kung wala na sa inyo, si SDO, Chief of Staff, at saka si VP na. Correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to get that straight, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you. Yes,
just an additional
Congressman
question,
Konghun.
Mr. Chair. Sandali lang. Kay Mr. Tinedo, no, nakalimutan ko lang yung tanong. Sino sa staff ng OVP ang involved sa budget preparation ng confidential fund kung hindi ikaw?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, kindly repeat.
Yung sa Office of the Vice President Confidential Fund, kung hindi ikaw yung nag-prepare ng menu, sino yung nag-prepare ng menu for the confidential fund?
During the budget request, sir, wala pong menu, just
Yes.
that a confidential expense, then the amount. But based on the, if we are going to discuss na po the utilization, the disbursement, that is the SDO, sir.
Siya rin ang may kinalaman,
Yes, sir, being the accountable officer.
which is si Gina Acosta.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May alam ka ba tungkol sa kanyang mga projection? tungkol
Wala.
dun sa budget utilization ng,
Wala.
ng confidential fund?
Wala po, Mr. Chair. Ang document lang po na pinorward sa amin is the physical and financial plan na flash
Okay.
po kanina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The chair would like to recognize the next interpellator, Congressman Jill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to our resource persons. I would like to direct my questions to Attorney Rosalyn Sanchez. Can you please confirm, kailan niyo po na-receive yung subpoena na in-issue po ng committee ito?
Mr. Chair, I received the subpoena on 8 November 2024 at around 10 o'clock in the morning.
At dahil na-receive niyo po yung subpoena, you prepared a statement, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Sino po yung gumawa nitong statement po ninyo? Ikaw po ba or may abogado po na gumawa ng statement?
I
niyo?
personally prepared my statement, Mr.
You
Chair.
personally prepared this statement, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And that statement that you are referring to was notarized on November 9.
Mr.
Would
Chair,
that be correct?
I am not aware, Your Honor.
You are not aware. But you are aware of the content of your statement.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
There appears a signature over and above the name of Attorney Rosalyn L. Sanchez. Is that your signature?
Well, I signed the statement, Your Honor.
Do you confirm and affirm the statements mentioned in this statement?
Mr. Chair, may I be allowed to read the statement, Your Honor?
We already have the copy. We read this already. I'm just asking if, can you confirm and affirm the statements you have mentioned in a notarized statement dated November 9, 2024?
Your Honor, since I did not personally send the statement because I sent it through our
No, kanina sabi mo
office.
ikaw yung personal na naggawa mismo nitong statement. So I'm
I-
just asking you if you can confirm and affirm the veracity and the truthfulness of your statements as indicated in this notarized document dated November 9, 2024.
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I confirm that I prepared the statement and that I submitted the statement through our office, but I am not sure if it is the same statement that reached your office, Your Honor.
Comsec, could you please show Attorney Sanchez the letter as mentioned by Congressman
But do
Jill?
you have a copy of your draft statement?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Parang lumiit. Yes, Mr. Chair, it is the same statement that I prepared.
So just for the record, it is the same statement that you have prepared and notarized on November 9 of 2024.
Your Honor, as mentioned, I only prepared the statement and signed it and submitted it to our office, Your Honor.
Anyway, Mr. Chair, I will not belabor anymore on the statement. I would just like to ask the committee secretary to flash on the screen the organizational chart of the Office of the Vice President. So as flashing the screen, Mr. Chair, this is the organizational chart of the Office of the Vice President. May I ask Attorney Sanchez if she can read the contents of this organizational chart?
Yes, Your Honor.
And as mentioned in your statement, you are the Director for Administrative and Financial Services Office. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And may I know kung saan po dyan sa organizational chart yung pinag-uusapan natin kanina, yung Special Disbursing Officer?
Mr. Chair, the Special Disbursing Officer is assigned to the Office of the Chief of Staff, Your Honor.
So the Special Disbursing Officer or the SDO is assigned or under the Office of the Chief of Staff. And who is the Chief of Staff of the Office of the Vice President?
Mr. Chair, the Chief of Staff is Attorney Zuleika Lopez.
Attorney Zulaika Lopez.
Yes,
Correct?
Mr. Chair.
So, being the Director for Administrative and Financial Services Office, may we know basically what are the tasks or duties and responsibilities of a Director for Admin and Financial Services?
Mr. Chair, generally it is to supervise the operations of the 5 divisions under my office. So as stated in the organizational chart, those are the Budget Division, Accounting Division, Human Resource and Development Division, Cash Division, and General Services Division.
So in other words, you have this supervisory authority or power over the general services, accounting, cash, budget division, including human resource development division. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, this is with regard to the confidential funds for 2022 and 2023. So sa pagkakaalam mo, nakatanggap ang OBP ng nagkakahalagang 125 million na confidential funds taong 2022. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
And the OBP received the funds by check on December 20, 2022. Is that correct?
The OVP released the check, Mr. Chair.
On December 20
On December
of 2022,
20. Yes.
correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Comsec, may I request to flash on the screen the copy of the check? Check dated December 20 of 2022. Sure.
Your Honor, we're having technical difficulties, but may I please recognize Senior Deputy Speaker Honorable Aurelio Dong D. Gonzales Jr. from the 3rd District of Pampanga and Vice Chairperson Honorable Janet L. Garin from the 1st District of Iloilo. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Let me continue. Mr. Chair, as flashed in the screen is the check, Land Bank check dated December 20 of 2022. And it appears in that check two names, namely Rosalyn Sanchez and Lemuel Ortonio. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
And there's a signature over and above the name of Rosalyn L. Sanchez. Is that your signature, Madam?
Yes, that is my signature, Mr. Chair.
And on the other hand, or the right portion, signature appears over and above the name of Lemuel Ortonio, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May we know who is Lemuel Ortonio for the record?
Mr. Chair, Lemuel Ortonio is our Assistant Chief of Staff here. Mr. Chair.
Assistant Chief of Staff.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So basically, based on the diagram or the organizational chart that we have shown a while ago, you are under the Assistant Secretary or the Assistant Chief of Staff in the person of Lemuel Ortonio, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair.
And you and Lemuel Ortonio are both from OBP, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So other than this check, nakatanggap din ang OVP ng cheque na nagkakahalagang 125 million na confidential funds noong first quarter ng taong 2023.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And can we also show on the screen the check dated January 31, 2023 for reference? So that is the check. Can you confirm that that was the check that you are referring to?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And in the same manner, your name appeared in that check and your signature appeared in that check, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Likewise, Mr. Chair, a check dated March 18 of 2024 amounting to 125 million, which refers to the confidential fund of the Office of the Vice President. Again, the names of Rosalyn Sanchez and Lemuel Ortonio appeared and they signed it. Would that be correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Also, a check dated July 13, 2024, bearing the same amount, 125 million, with the names of Rosalyn L. Sanchez and Lemuel Ortonio appeared in that check, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
In all of those checks, sino po yung payee doon sa mga checking yon?
The Special Disbursing Officer, Your Honor.
Sino po?
The Special Disbursing Officer, Your
And
Honor.
who is?
Ms. Gina Acosta.
Miss Gina Acosta. And a while ago, you confirmed that those are your signatures, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May I know what is the relevance of your signature appearing in those checks?
Your Honor, per bank requirement, there should be at least 2 signatories to the check. And once there is an approved disbursement voucher. The disbursement voucher is forwarded to the cash division for the preparation and issuance of the check. And I received the check for my signature from the cash division, Your Honor.
Yes, aside from the bank requirement that there at least there must be 2 signatories, may I know what is the relevance of signing those checks?
Your Honor, that my signature implies that the documents, supporting documents for the issuance of the check are complete, Your Honor.
Direct to the point. In other words, your signature implies that you are permitting the payee in the name of Gina Acosta, who is the special disbursing officer. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
You are implying that the payee will withdraw the amount indicated in those checks, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Sanchez, may I know, what is your participation as the director in the disbursement process of the confidential funds?
My participation ends after the signing of the check, Your Honor.
So after signing, wala na ho kayong gagawin doon?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May we know on what aspect, as the director of the Administrative and Financial Services Office, you mentioned a while ago that you are exercising supervisory power or authority. In what aspect you are exercising that power or authority?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, for example, for the functions of the accountant, Your Honor, the accounting division is under my office. So I just need to make sure that she was able to review the documents and check the completeness, Your Honor, in accordance with her duties under the joint circular. For the budget division, that they are able to submit the required documents for the request of the budget. And for the cash division, that the documents in terms of the preparation of the check are complete and that the check that they prepared is correct as to the details on the amount and the name of the payee.
In other words, your participation is with regard to the preparing of documents on how the Office of the Vice President will utilize the confidential funds. Would that be correct?
Mr. Chair, it's not on the utilization, but on the release of the cash advance, Mr. Chair.
All right, on the release of the cash advance, which is you sign that check on the assumption that all the documents are above board. Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
How about in the process of spending the confidential funds? Do you have any participation in the process of expending the confidential funds?
No, Mr. Chair.
There is none.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
How about your participation in the liquidation process? Do you have any participation?
No direct participation, Mr. Chair, but I just ensure that before the next check is released, the liquidation report and the transmittal letter from the Commission on Audit, ICFAO, is attached to the disbursement voucher, Mr. Chair.
You mean to say you don't have direct participation, but indirectly, you have to ensure na dapat meron pong mga naka-attach na mga documents doon sa pera na nagastos ng una.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And as the Director of the Administrative and Financial Services Office, you have the duty and responsibility to ensure that everything is in order, correct?
The documents are in order, yes, Mr.
Documents
Chair.
are in order. All the necessary documents are attached before you proceed with the payment of the cash advance, correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
I assume that you are familiar with the first audit observation memorandum for the fourth quarter of year 2022, which I refer to the AOM number 2023-211, issued by the Commission on Audit to the Office of the Vice President on September 14, 2023, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have seen the audit observation memorandum.
You have seen that AOM.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
You have read and understood the contents of that AOM, correct?
I have read the AOM, Mr. Chair.
Do you agree with me that in AOM number 2023-211 of the COA, which states, the accomplishment report reflected only the lumped amount for surveillance/monitoring activity undertaken in 132 areas without a specific detail of the corresponding expenditures by object or the confidential expenses incurred. At sinasabi pa po sa AOM nito, without the specific details on the confidential activities undertaken and confidential expenses incurred in the accomplishment report, it cannot be determined that the utilization of the confidential fund for the period December 21 to 31 of 2022 is warranted considering that in the PFP, the allocated amount is good for 3 months. As such, the management shall submit documentary evidence of payment. Can you confirm that statement as contained in the AOM number 2023-211?
Mr. Chair, I do not have a copy of the AUM, but I recall that there is something to that effect, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
All right, and on February 1, 2023, another AOM, number 2024-14, for the first and second quarters of 2023 was issued by COA. Are you aware of this?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And have you seen this AOM?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Have you read the contents of this AOM?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Do you agree that the AOM number 2024-14 stated in the following: the propriety of the transactions could not be ascertained as the submitted LRs or the liquidation reports were not fully supported with complete and proper documentations required under the Joint Circular number 2015-01 dated January 8, 2015 of the Commission on Audit, Department of Budget and Management, DILG, Governance Commission for GOCCs, and Department of National Defense. Would that statement be correct?
Again, Mr. Chair, I do not have a copy of the AOM, but I recall that there is something to that effect, Mr.
You recall
Chair.
that there is something to this effect?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And this is what is stated in the, as mentioned, AOM. Next, on August 8, 2024, another AOM, dated or number 2024-170 for the third quarter of year 2023, and that was issued by COA. Have you seen
Yes.
the contents of this AOM?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Have you read and understood the contents of this AOM?
I have read the contents, sir.
Do you agree with me that in the said AOM, it stated also the propriety of the transactions could not be ascertained as the submitted liquidation reports were not fully supported with complete and proper documentations as mentioned or required under the Joint Circular? Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Therefore, Mr. Chair, given that these AOMs were issued by COA to the Office of the Vice President, it necessarily means, according to the Joint Circular, there were deficiencies noted in the audit of the confidential funds requiring comments and or submission of documentary requirements. Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Therefore, there is no other conclusion than the fact that the manner in which the confidential funds were spent are not properly and not sufficiently substantiated. Is that correct?
Based on the audit observation, Your Honor, that is what is indicated, Your Honor.
And would that be correct?
I have no personal information, Your Honor, because I do not have knowledge on the actual transactions out of the confidential fund, Your Honor.
Do you agree with the contents of that AOMs? That it was not properly documented and sufficiently substantiated?
Your Honor, I apologize, but I am not in a position to give my opinion on that matter because I
But
do not
because of
have
the issuance of the
transactions.
AOMs, the OBP was required to submit additional documentary proof. Would that be correct?
That is correct, Your
Based
Honor.
on your understanding of the AOM issued by COA?
Yes, that is correct, Your Honor.
And pursuant to the AOMs, the OBP submitted documents evidencing payment or the DEPs, correct?
As far as I know, there was a submission, Your Honor, and compliance to the AOM.
So in compliance with the AOM, the Office of the Vice President submitted documentary evidencing payments or DEPs, correct?
Based on my information, Your Honor, based on my knowledge, there appears to be a submission, Your Honor.
And these DEPs consist of several acknowledgement receipts or ARs, correct?
I am not aware, Your Honor,
How come that you are not aware?
because I was not the one that submitted the reply to the AOM, Your
But have you
Honor.
seen the acknowledgement receipts?
No, Your Honor. Actually, I have seen some of the acknowledgement receipts when it was presented before this committee, Your Honor.
So it was only during that time that you have seen those acknowledgement receipts.
Yes, that
Correct.
is correct, Your Honor.
And as discussed last hearing, and as you have mentioned, yun lang yung panahon na nakita mo yung mga sinasabing DEPs or the acknowledgement receipts. There were several irregularities identified in the DEPs that were submitted by the Office of the Vice President. Aware ho kayo doon?
Based on what was presented during the committee hearing, based on the last committee hearing, Your Honor,
And that was one of the subject matters of the previously conducted hearing, correct?
yes, Your Honor.
At ang sinasabi ko pong mga irregularities dito, as presented and found out during that committee hearing, yung mga DEPs or yung mga acknowledgement receipts or ARs ay walang petsa. Or kung may petsa man, hindi po nakalagay ng maayos o kaya merong discrepancy doon sa petsa na nakalagay. Pangatlo, hindi mabasa ang mga pangalan. Pang-apat, kung hindi naman yung mabasa yung iba paulit-ulit ang pangalan, it appeared repeatedly in those ARs. Panglima, may mga pangalan na nakalagay, readable, pero walang pirma. At pang-anim, on the reverse, may pirma, pero walang nakalagay na pangalan. Are you aware of that?
No, Your Honor.
But that was the outcome of the committee hearing conducted previously, correct?
I apologize, Your Honor. I was not able to watch the entire hearing, Your Honor.
Doon po sa mga ARs, only a signature is affixed with no indicated name of the signatory. The opposite occurs, wherein a name is written but a signature is lacking. So yun po yung naging resulta no, nung naging committee hearing nung nakaraang linggo. Anyway, last question, ma'am. Paano po nangyari itong mga ARs which is considered as fictitious and fabricated? Do you have any knowledge on how they could come up with this kind of documents appearing in these acknowledgement receipts and presented before the COA and found out that these very dubious documents?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, respectfully, I apologize, but I cannot answer because I do not have personal knowledge on that matter.
Thank you. That would be all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The Chair would like to recognize the Honorable Kate Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Sanchez, I was listening to the questions of Congressman Jill kanina and specifically about your letter, your statement. No? Did you or did you not know that the letter that was submitted to this committee was notarized?
Your Honor, I did not know, Your Honor.
You did not know. So now that you know that it was notarized without your knowledge, how does it make you feel as a lawyer, Attorney Sanchez?
Your Honor, I would have to check, Your Honor.
You'd have to check your feelings? How do you feel about the matter? That the letter that was submitted was notarized without you knowing that it was notarized?
Your Honor, I know that it had to be notarized, but I was not able to personally have it notarized because of time constraints, Your Honor.
So you did not have it notarized by yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
So isn't the notarization, doesn't it state that you personally appeared before this notary public, etc., etc.?
Your Honor, as I mentioned, I did not have it personally notarized.
Kaya nga,
Your Honor.
my question is, as a lawyer, how does it make you feel? What is your thoughts about the matter?
I would need to check, Your Honor.
You need to check on how you feel.
And
All right.
no,
I
Your
got it.
Honor,
I got it,
on
Attorney Sanchez.
how it got notarized, Your Honor.
Yeah, thank you. Now, in your statement, you said, dated November 9, no? Na the documents that you submitted contain the names of the beneficiaries of the programs of the different programs of the Office of the Vice President, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
That it contained the names and the details of these persons who received help from the Office of the Vice President.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And there were a lot of programs mentioned in the Office of the Vice President, diba? And very good programs din. Parang namimigay din ng ayuda yung Office of the Vice President.
We provide assistance, Your Honor.
Yeah, kaya nga, in the form of an ayuda. or something.
Various forms, Your Honor. Yes.
Right. Now, one of these is the medical assistance program, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Another is the rice food bags.
Yes, Your
No?
Honor.
And sa sinabit ninyo na 2023 budget accountability report, you indicated that there were about 977,615 beneficiaries of the different programs of the Vice President,
Yes, Your Honor.
most of which were the libreng sakay.
Yes, Your Honor.
How did you account for the libreng sakay in the first place? Did you count how many people rode the jeepneys?
Yes, Your Honor. We require the conductors to submit trip reports. So for every trip, they have a ticker as to the number of passengers that rode the bus, Your
So
Honor.
that is the bulk of the beneficiaries na?
Yes,
Yung
Your Honor.
libreng sakay. Okay. Now, ang medical assistance, like, are you familiar with how the medical assistance are given by the Office of the Vice President?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you are. Is there a limitation as to how much one can get in terms of medical assistance?
We have a tier, Your Honor.
Tier, okay.
And it depends on the nature of the assistance
So,
being requested, Your Honor.
To determine the nature of the assistance needed, specifically the medical assistance, you would need to interview the patient or the person asking for medical assistance?
Yes, Your Honor.
So do you have in the employ of the Office of the Vice President social workers
Yes, Your Honor.
who does the interviewing?
Some social workers, Your Honor, but
Some
there
social
are
workers.
other employees who are non-social workers, Your Honor.
Okay, now the medical assistance is given in the form of cash or goods?
It's in the form of guarantee letters, Your Honor.
Guarantee letters to another government agency.
No, Your Honor.
Alright.
It can be a government hospital, but
Uh-huh.
can also be private hospitals and
Alright.
pharmacies and other medical service providers, Your Honor.
So let me understand it. You give a guarantee letter to, example, patient A is asking for 10,000 pesos, and after interviewing, parang you find out that they're qualified to get this kind of amount. So you give a guarantee letter addressed to the hospital where he or she is being admitted that the Office of the Vice President will pay for this amount or
Yes.
will cover this amount.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
How about in terms of medicines or something like that?
We also give, for 2023, Your Honor, we provide the medicines, Your Honor. But
So
for-
actual medicines na?
Yes, Your Honor.
So they give you parang prescriptions, and then ang ibabalik niyo sa kanila are actual medicines that they need.
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow. But then again, when you report this in your budget accountability report, you indicate how much or ilang magkano ang value ng medicines na binigay niyo to this particular patient.
Yes, Your
No?
Honor.
So, in this report, you indicated that there were about 95,756 na nakatanggap ng medical assistance.
Sorry,
Would that
can
be
we-
a fair statement or an accurate statement, Attorney Sanchez?
Your Honor, can we see the presentation again, Your Honor? Sorry.
Table number 16. Do we have a slide of the table number 16? Yung, yes, that one.
95,756, Your Honor.
Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So now, 95,756 ang binigyan nyo ng medical assistance, and the total amount given for medical assistance was about 998,279 and 54 pesos. It's almost 1 billion pesos. Would that also be correct?
I will confirm, Your Honor, if that amount includes the burial assistance.
Can anyone of the persons invited confirm the amount?
$956 million. 1,044,000. Your Honor, based on the annual audited report, the amount disbursed for both medical and burial assistance programs, Your
Oh,
Honor.
just medical assistance. Yeah.
For medical assistance. Ano naman tayo medical assistance? Nakamix. Your Honor, we reported the lump sum.
Lump sum.
amount.
Magkano yung amount na binireport nyo?
1,044,569,868, Your
That's
Honor.
for both medical and
Burial,
burial
Your
assistance.
Honor.
Well, anyway, from the documents that we got, it indicated na 998 lang dito ang medical assistance. No? So if you gave 998 million pesos in medical assistance to 95,000 persons, that should average out at about 10,500 or more or less, no?
Yes,
Per
yes, Your
person.
Honor.
Is that the usual amounts that you give to, or it would vary?
It would vary,
So
Your
some
Honor.
would be 20,000, 50,000 maybe?
Yes, Your Honor.
May cap ba kayo?
The cap for 2023 is 50,000, Your Honor.
For medical assistance?
Yes.
That's the cap for
Your
medical
Honor.
assistance?
For hospitalization, Your Honor.
Hospitalization. And why was there a cap that was set for medical assistance? Bakit may cap?
Your Honor, we set the cap because of the limited amount of budget, Your Honor.
Because of the limited amount of budget. Kaya dapat, para mas marami kayong matulungan, mas spread out tong amount na to, you set it at 50,000 pesos.
Yes, Your
maximum.
Honor.
No, for
Yes, Your
hospitalized na patients or
Yes, Your
something.
Honor.
Okay. Now, kasi the thing why I'm asking this is that the confidential fund also had medical payments or something for medical things, no? Do you confirm that?
Your Honor, I have
Medical and ano ba yung sinasabi nila? Purchase of provision of medical and food aid ang sinasabi to justify the expense. So that was the documents that the office of the Vice President submitted. And in one of these tulong na binigay nila in terms of purchase of provision of medical and food aid is in the amount of 1 million pesos, no? So if the theory supposedly was that we are to cap the medical assistance at 50 para mas marami yung matulungan, bakit may isang medical assistance na umabot ng 1 million pesos? Okay, if we can show the acknowledgement receipt, no? Para mapakita natin yan. February 6, 2023, 1 million, no? purchase of provision of medical and food aid. So di ba, it defeats the purpose. So akala ko nga, kinakap nyo at 50,000 para mas marami yung matulungan nyo. Bakit dito, 1 million, isang tao lang? Would you know the reason for that, Attorney Sanchez?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I do not have information on that.
Okay, now, in the regular program din na ito, rice food bags. How much is given to each beneficiary sa rice food bags?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, the average amount of the package is around 500 pesos, Your Honor.
500 pesos. So, kung 50,000 na medical assistance plus rice, rice na 500 pesos, that should just be 50,500, di ba? Hindi pwede itong 1 million na ginamitan ng confidential fund. Kasi sobra-sobra na siya, di ba? If you go through the normal programs of the Office of the Vice President. Kasi the thing ang hindi ko lang makuha kasi is like, if you already have an existing medical assistance program, and if you already have an existing rice food bag program, why would you still be needing to use the confidential funds for the provision of medical and food aid? Bakit po kaya sa tingin ninyo?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, but I cannot make an opinion on that matter.
So you don't know the reason why, no?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
But wouldn't it be more practical sana na isang source of fund lang ang sa medical assistance, isang source of fund lang ang sa food aid para mas uniform yung pagbigay nyo at mas marami yung mabibigyan niyo ng ayuda?
Mr. Chair, I do not have information on the actual utilization of the confidential fund, Your Honor.
Yeah. Kasi in December 21 to 31 ng 2022 na confidential fund, ang provision of medical and food aid is 40 million. Di ba? Now, on February 6 to March 29, 2023, din, in the first quarter of 2023, ang provisions for medical and food aid increased to 42 million. Sa, sa April 25 to June 30, is bumalik to 40 million. Now, hindi ko lang maintindihan po. Bakit kailangan pa mag-utilize ng confidential fund if may existing na kayo na programa for food and medical assistance?
I have no knowledge about that, Mr. Chair.
Now, again, in your letter, kasi balikan ko to in your letter, in your statement pala, dated November 9, you said na lahat ng beneficiaries at details nila ay nailista when you submitted it to the COA. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Now, ang details na to would include saan na hospital, magkano binigay, anong address ng beneficiary na binigyan. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair, with respect to the regular fund, Your Honor.
Yes, with respect to the regular fund, which is contrary to the confidential fund na ginamit din for the similar purpose of the provision of medical and food aid, which just states na it's 1 million to this person, just the name and signature and the date. Tama po?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, again, I understand the programs of the Vice President. They're very good programs, no? Tulong sa tao, no? Ayuda din in that form. But why do you need to use separate funds that have different accounting requirements? Yan ang tanong ko eh.
Mr. Chair, I cannot answer on that. But from what I know, Your Honor, is that the confidential funds are intended for a different set of beneficiaries, or it is for a different purpose, Your Honor,
But it said
than the regular programs.
medical and food aid din eh. It's the same purpose as that of your medical assistance and rice food bags. Similar din, di ba?
I have no information, Your Honor, because the details as to the specific purpose of the confidential fund has not been disclosed to me.
Has not
Your
been?
Honor. Was not disclosed to me, Your
Kaya
Honor.
nga, that's what I'm harping at is like, kasi kung uniform lang sana, anyway, it's the same purpose, it's the same intention, na tulungan tong mga taong to or whatever, no? Bakit hindi isang fund na lang ang gagamitin or tap into one fund? Anyway, in the regular program, you said kanina na may social workers kayo who will be interviewing these people, di ba? And in fact, you even set a cap para mas marami kayong matulungan, may cap kayo at 50,000. Yet here, as an example, I showed you kanina, yung isang acknowledgement receipt lang, 1 million, isang tao lang. And all it said was that it is for medical aid and food provisions. So that's my concern, no? And I think lang, even if it is such a laudable program, no, it's a very good program that was initiated by the Office of the Vice President. para to avoid confusion na lang and investigations like this, sana, dapat one source of fund for that purpose. Yun na yun, di ba? Huwag na yung itap mo pa ang confidential. You got the confidential fund should be used for purposes approved by the joint circular. Dapat, yun lang. Huwag na yung food and medical. Meron na kayong regular program for that. In fact, mas malaki pa nga ang pondo nyo for that, di ba? How much ang pondo nyo for that regular programs na ginamit nyo for medical assistance and food aid?
Around 1 billion, Your Honor, for medical and burial
See?
assistance, Your Honor.
So, yung 40 million na yun, malit lang na bagay yun, di ba? Compared to the ano, but why use it in such a way na different yung accounting requirements and reportorial requirements? Yan ang hindi ko masagot. And I'm sure, most likely, hindi mo rin masagot yan. Can you answer?
No, Your Honor.
Yes. And sino sa tingin mo ang pwedeng magsagot, who could answer, no? Who could give us answers to these questions? Sino po?
Your Honor, as to the actual disbursements of the fund, that would be the special disbursing officer, Your Honor.
How about as to the reason as to why two separate funds were used? Who should have answered this? Bakit confidential ang isa? Bakit regular fund ang isa?
Your Honor, the fund was requested by the office of the Vice
Kaya
President,
nga,
Your Honor.
I'm questioning who would be the person in the best position to answer why it was separated pa.
Your Honor, the head of the agency, Your Honor.
And who is that head of agency?
Vice President Sara Duterte, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Sanchez. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congressman Flores. The chair would like to recognize Congresswoman Mvga Swansing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would like to direct my first set of questions to Attorney Sanchez. Attorney Sanchez, I would just like to reiterate some of the questions my colleagues asked a while ago. Nakalagay po, you signified that the signature on the statement is yours and it was duly authorized. But you had no knowledge that it was notarized. Is that correct, Attorney Sanchez?
Yes, Your Honor.
Opo. Siguro on this po, I will not belabor the point, but I would just like to second what Kong Rog spoke about earlier. Kasi pati po dito makikita natin, ang nag-notarize po noong inyong statement ay si Attorney Rochelle Abella. Which to me is very interesting, Mr. Chair, because one, she's already operating outside of her area of jurisdiction, which actually kind of renders the notarization invalid. But second po, apart from like official OVP DepEd documents, it seems like she's also handling personal notarizations, like notarizations of personal documents for all of the employees of OVP and DepEd without the employee's knowledge. So, mukha pong, Mr. Chair, I would leave it, I would defer it to the judgment of the committee as to whether we should also call on Attorney Rochelle Abella to answer some of the questions, because it seems like she's certifying and notarizing a lot of the documents that are being covered in this committee, Mr. Chair. But I would just like, Mr. Chair, I will defer that to the committee as to whether we want to invite Attorney Rochelle Abella.
Yeah, just an interjection, Mr. Chair. In line with the statements of Congresswoman Mvga, Mr. Chair, can I move that we invite Attorney Abella?
There's a motion to invite
Second,
Attorney Abella, duly seconded. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, interjection.
Yes, Congressman Jill.
Attorney Sanchez, you mentioned that you have no knowledge that the statement was notarized, correct?
Mr. Chair, I submitted my signed statement to the office, to the OVP, Your Honor, but I was not part of the notarization, Your Honor.
But you are aware that that document will be notarized because you received a phone call asking for your ID, correct?
I was aware that it would be notarized, but I was not aware if it was actually notarized, Your Honor.
For Ms. Julieta Villa del Rey, who prepared your statement?
Ako po, Your Honor.
Ikaw po, hindi po yung lawyer na nag-notarize. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just along that line. Attorney Sanchez, with regards to the statement, you mentioned that you were not aware that it was notarized. Is that correct?
We intended to have it notarized, Your Honor, but as to the actual notarization, due to the short period of time from the time that I received the subpoena and the time that I made my statement, hindi ko na po
So, who had
napanotarize.
it notarized?
I will, again, Your Honor, I will check po with our office, Your Honor.
Hindi. Kasi ikaw ang acting chief of staff. So, you would know to whom you would entrust notarizing that document.
Your Honor, just to correct Your Honor, I am not the acting chief of staff.
You are
I am the Director for Administrative and
Okay,
Financial
sorry. Okay,
Services Office.
now, it's insofar as it's
Yes.
a document that has your signature affixed to it.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor. I
So
just
to whom did you entrust the responsibility of having that document notarized?
I just left the document, Your Honor, to the head of our Legal Affairs Division, Your Honor.
And that would be
Attorney Torrentira, Your Honor.
yung nandito kanina.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, meaning, iniwan mo yung dokumento na pinirmahan mo na ikaw din ang gumawa sa kanya. Tapos siya na po ang nagpa-notaryo. Tama po ba?
I am not sure, Your Honor.
No, but you entrusted it to her, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I
So
just
you-
requested her, Your Honor, to send the document to.
So you
Comsec.
did not know whether or not she had the document notarized.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you're a lawyer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, Congresswoman Swansea.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I would also, maybe one question that's also playing in my mind is given that they all seem to be centralizing the submission of all of these documents, baka meron pong filter, baka meron pong nagre-review ng lahat ng mga statements nila as to whether it's allowable, if I may use that term, na pwede pong i-release. So yun lang, Mr. Chair. I don't know as well why the officials of the OVP are barred from sending directly to the committee because that's also an avenue that they have. They're given the contact details, the email address of the committee as well, so they could have easily sent it directly, Mr. Chair. But just wanted to highlight that, Mr. Chair, before I move on to my questions. Attorney Sanchez, given that you've manifested to the committee that you've drafted your statement word per word, I would like to ask specific questions on some of the statements that you made. The first point that I would like to quote was your statement saying, for the years 2022 and 2023, the OVP has received unmodified or unqualified opinions in COA's annual audit reports. An unmodified or unqualified opinion is considered as the best rating given by COA. So, ang tanong ko po siguro, Attorney Sanchez, what is your understanding of what it means when COA issues an unmodified or unqualified opinion?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the unmodified or unqualified opinion means that the audited financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the agency.
My next question is, what is your basis for saying that, quote, this is considered as the best rating given by the COA?
Your Honor, because there are three audit opinions which are usually issued by the Commission on Audit. The first is the unmodified opinion, the next is the qualified opinion, and the last is the adverse opinion.
Thank you, Attorney Sanchez. May I, maybe rebut some of the points that you noted, may I request the COMSEC to please flash the statement released by COA themselves. That essentially a statement saying that the highest COA rating or COA audit rating is not an unmodified opinion. So let me read specific answers or clarifications issued by COA. I would like to first highlight the third paragraph, which is their definition of what an unmodified opinion is, or unqualified opinion, which is issued when the auditor concludes that the financial statements are prepared in all material respects in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. The next that I would like to highlight is in the first paragraph, an audit opinion should not be viewed as a rating, score, or grade with ranking of lowest to highest. I would like to move to my next slide, if the COMSEC may please show that. It has the different types of audits. It has your financial audit, your performance audit, and the compliance audit. So I would just like to create a delineation among the three different audits that COA does. Here, Attorney Sanchez, just wanted to align on the terms before we move further in our discussion. COA does three types of audits. So there's a financial audit, which, as you said, pertains only on the alignment of whatever documents you submit, their alignment to the IPSAS and the PFRS. So it's essentially really making sure na numbers to numbers, balance lahat. Tama po ba yun? Per account, compliance with accounting standards, yun lang po yung tinitignan doon.
Your Honor, from my understanding is that it also means that the financial statements are accurate or present fairly what is the real position of the financial status of the agency, Your Honor.
But it's looking just at the numbers, right? You're not looking at the nature of the disbursements. You're not looking at compliance with laws and guidelines, like department orders, memorandums, etc. Memoranda.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because that's where your performance audit comes in, which looks at whether the programs are in accordance with principles of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, and the compliance audit, which looks at whether the disbursements or the nature of the expenses are compliant with laws, rules, and regulations. So I just wanted to align on those before we move forward. So may I come back to that COA statement, please, COMSEC? So I just wanted to highlight on paragraph 4 that it is important to note that the financial statements represent only a facet of the agency, and an audit opinion does not provide any conclusions on the agency's level of compliance with laws, rules, and regulations, or as we mentioned, in terms of the level of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So, Ms. Sanchez, siguro yun lang po, I would like to caution lang in terms of, because as we read your statement, I believe what you were implying is since COA issued an unmodified or an unqualified opinion to the OVP, what you're implying in your statement is there are no irregularities. We've been rated by COA as we've been given the highest rating by COA. So yun lang po. I just wanted to reiterate that because I've seen also some of the discussions outside of the committee. It seems like some of them want to assert that since the OVP was issued an unmodified opinion, an unqualified opinion, there is no room for irregularities, or there probably are no irregularities. But here, I just want to reiterate that having an unmodified or unqualified opinion does not preclude the OVP from having irregularities from the standpoint of the nature of the disbursements, whether these disbursements are legal, whether the intended beneficiaries were actually given the welfare programs, etc. So yun lang po. I just wanted to caution in terms of very liberally using that unmodified opinion as kind of a shield from us doing a lot of the scrutiny in terms of the specific nature of the disbursement. So yun lang po, Attorney Sanchez. Okay. Mr. Chair, I would like to move to the next part of the statement, which I would like to ask Attorney Sanchez on. Quote, in addition, since July 2022, the OVP has not received any notice of disallowance nor suspension on the transactions covering the reported beneficiaries and strategic partners. So I would just like to ask, what do you mean by this statement?
Your Honor, if I may continue the statement. In addition, since July 2022, the OVP has not received any notice of disallowance nor suspension on the transactions covering the reported beneficiaries and strategic partners, which are the topics of privileged speech number 379. Your Honor, I am referring to the privileged speech delivered by Honorable Rolando Valeriano of the 2nd District of Manila, wherein he mentioned that there were unverified claims on the number and concentration in terms of location of the beneficiaries of the OVP programs and projects and the number of OVP strategic partners. Your Honor, the numbers that were cited in the privileged speech of Honorable Roland Valeriano are all included in our report to the DBM and the COA. Those numbers correlate to the regular fund of the agency. So in terms of the regular fund of the agency, we did not receive any notice of disallowance nor suspension since July 2022 up to the present, Your Honor.
But are you aware of the AOMs, the audit order memoranda, that have been issued by COA to the OVP pertaining to regular funds?
Yes, Your Honor.
May you please let us know how many AOMs have been issued to the OVP, specifically pertaining to regular funds? Kasi alam naman po natin, with regard to confidential funds, there have already been 3 AOMs and 1 notice of disallowance for the confidential funds, but it was revealed to us by COA just during the previous hearing that there are also AOMs. And actually, some of the AOMs pertain to welfare programs. That's why I want to also highlight the statement of yours, Attorney Sanchez, because Mr. Tomawis in the previous hearing said there are like 170 million pesos in question under the AOM for the regular fund, pertaining to welfare programs in particular.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Chair, thank you for that clarification, Your Honor. We have around 14 AOMs, but the item that was mentioned earlier, which is a 174 million on welfare goods, I think the auditor was able to clarify that it was a matter of a recommendation to improve internal controls, but there is nothing that is missing or unaccounted for.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to flag that 14 AOMs, 14 audit order memoranda issued to the OVP pertaining to regular funds since July 2022 up to present.
That is only for
Until
2023.
end of 2023.
Yes.
Opo. Siguro po kasi it seems to us like you're cherry picking in terms of your statement. Because if there are 14 AOMs, for someone who is not familiar with the extent of the AOMs and the NDs issued by COA to the OVP, magmumukha po kasi na mukhang walang NDs and AOMs. Kaya yun lang po, it's the way that the statement is worded because welfare programs in general, some of the welfare programs have been subjected to the AOM.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. But as mentioned, there is no disallowance on the welfare goods, Your Honor, because nothing is missing. Because if the items are missing, then we would not be able to get an unmodified opinion, Your Honor.
Actually po, Mr. Chair, medyo alarming po yung flinag ni Mr. Tumawis during our previous hearing that what was actually missing for some of the welfare programs were the distribution lists or the list of beneficiaries for some of the programs. He mentioned two, disaster operations, I believe, and pagbabago program. So yun po, COA na mismo yung nagsabi, Attorney Sanchez, na merong deficiencies po in terms of the list of beneficiaries.
Mr. Chair, maybe we can refer to the annual audit report for 2023, wherein it states that only the post-activity report, which is a summary of the activity, was lacking, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, perhaps in the next hearing, maganda po kung mapaghaharap po natin si Attorney Sanchez at Mr. Tumawis kasi po COA themselves were the ones who said that there were deficiencies in terms of the distribution lists because of the internal guidelines of the OVP. Sabi nila for some of the programs, the OVP did not require distribution lists to be created for some of the programs and that's why there were no distribution lists submitted. So siguro po pagharapin na lang po namin kayo ng COA dahil COA na po mismo yung nagsabi that there are deficiencies in that area. Mr. Chair, I would like to next move to a follow-up question to what Kong Jill asked. Given your position, Attorney Sanchez, you're the Director of Admin and Financial Services. To what extent are you involved in audit proceedings?
In audit proceedings, Your Honor, I am involved in the review and finalization of annual audit memoranda, reply to AOMs, Your Honor.
Pero kanina po, sinabi niyo po kay Kong Jill na hindi po kayo yung nag-reply doon sa AOM. So you're not privy to a particular information that Kong Jill was asking for earlier.
Again, Your Honor, I am only involved in the regular fund, Your Honor, but not in the confidential fund, Your Honor.
So who's handling the response to the AOMs and the NDs, the AOMs on the side of the confidential funds?
Your Honor, I have no personal knowledge, Your Honor, but from what I know, it should be the persons indicated in the AOM. So it would be the special disbursing officer and probably the head of agency, but I have no personal information, Your Honor.
So are you saying, Attorney Sanchez, that within the OVP, the only two people who can give clarifications with regard to the disbursements of the confidential funds are Ms. Gina Acosta and the Vice President herself, just the two of them?
They are the only person that I would presume to have knowledge about the matter, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, before I move to the next point, I would like to emphasize that these unqualified or unmodified opinions do not bar us from our present inquiry. Just because the COA issued this does not mean there is no malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. If at all, these unqualified or unmodified opinions by the COA merely indicate that the financial statements, in material respects, are in accordance with financial reporting standards. But such is the nature of fraud or criminal conduct. They normally appear in order until one takes a closer look. At face value, everything seems to be in order, but upon closer scrutiny, that's where you see the possible irregularities. And this is precisely what we are doing, to see if the numbers presented by the OVP, though following accounting standards, does not mean they're compliant with existing regulations and laws with regard to the use of the fund. So, Mr. Chair, I would just like to move to my next topic. Ms. Sanchez, as Director of Financial and Administrative Services, to what extent are you involved in the funding and operations of satellite offices?
Mr. Chair, I am involved in the, I supervise the operation of the budget division, so in terms of preparation of the budget, and as well as in terms of the general services division, the logistics aspect for the operations of the satellite offices, and I am also supervising the Human Resource Development Division. So that would be in terms of the personnel requirements of the satellite offices, as well as the accounting and cash division. So for financial requirements of the satellite offices division, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Attorney. So does that mean that you were involved when the satellite offices were first planned, when they were brainstorming about the establishment of satellite offices? Because you're involved in the budgeting for the SO. So were you there when they were first planning the establishment of satellite offices?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, I am not with the OVP yet at that time.
Mr. Tenido, if I may ask you, because you've been with the OVP even before 2022, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And as part of the budget team, were you there when this first discussion of the satellite offices were done?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So perhaps I may direct my question to you, Mr. Tenido. What was the basis for the establishment of satellite offices?
It was upon the instruction of the top management that the OVP services will be extended to certain areas nationwide, Mr. Chair.
When was the first satellite office opened?
I have no definite date of which satellite offices and when they went open.
Just the month.
I think there are certain satellite offices that open in July 2022.
So as soon as
Yes.
VP Sara assumed, right?
Yes.
Assumed her tenure. Mr. Tenido, were you part of the budget process for GAA 2022 for the OVP?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. For the fiscal year 2022.
Fiscal year 2022, which
Yes,
was
Mr.
done in
Chair.
2021.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Is there a line item in the 2022 GAA for satellite offices?
There is no explicit or line item in 2022 GAA as planned during 2021.
Exactly, because satellite offices were not yet in existence.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So my next question is, where were the funds for the operation of satellite offices for 2022 sourced? Dahil wala po siya sa GAA 2022, so saan po kinuha yung pondo para sa satellite offices ng 2022?
The operations for satellite offices opened in 2022 was sourced also under the FY 2022 GAA of the OVP.
Under which line item, Mr. Tenido?
That is under the Good Governance program.
Good governance program. Were there, because there should be a process, right, for having it approved to use the funds specifically allocated for a different program for a different program. So was that transfer approved?
There were no transfers, ma'am, during that time because under Good Governance program, it basically covers all the social services, the MAB, just that we have to extend it. So we created the OVP during 2022 created satellite offices just to extend the services of the OVP.
So it's under the Good Government
Yes, ma'am.
program. Okay. I could direct this question. I'm not sure who has the best knowledge of this, but probably Attorney Sanchez, since you're handling the budgeting and the funding for the satellite offices. Throughout the deliberations, we noticed that what COA kept on saying is that the substantial, actually sometimes the five-fold increase in some of the budget items can be attributed to the satellite offices, the establishment of satellite offices. COA was describing to us last time that the increase in travel expenses were due to the establishment of satellite offices. The additional 60 million in rentals were also attributed to the satellite offices. Even the increase in professional services were attributed to the establishment of satellite offices. So actually, that made the committee very curious. How much are we spending in total across the different expense categories towards the satellite offices? So all in po, that includes the rent, the supplies, the travel, the personnel, because it seems to be eating up a huge chunk of the OVP budget. Please give that to us for years 2022, 2023, and 2024. Would you be able to share that information now?
Your Honor, we have the information. May I refer to our budget analyst, Ms. Edeline?
Ms. Rabago?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. For 2023, actual utilization for the satellite offices would be 1.026 billion pesos. And for 2024, as of October 2024, that would be 893.36 million pesos.
Just wanted to clarify that 1 billion, 1.02 billion
Yes.
in 2023, and in 2024,
893.36 million, Your Honor. 893.36 million, Your Honor.
Do you have the figures for 2022?
Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, I don't have the details for 2022.
I'm trying to pull up the budget of the OVP. This seems to be, if I'm not mistaken, this is taking up. Mr. Chair, just looking at it, it seems to be occupying 60% of the OVP budget, but I just need to quickly check. Comsec, would you happen to have my presentation from the previous hearing? I have it now. So, Mr. Chair, for the year 2023, the OVP budget, Mr. Chair, I'll go back to that point. Mr. Chair, I'll come back to that point. I'll just have to very quickly compute the percentage that the satellite offices are taking
Yes,
up.
please. But before you continue, may I recognize the Honorable Franz Castro? Please continue.
Mr. Chair, I'll come back to that later, but the figures are very staggering. 1 billion for 2023 and probably going to hit another billion in 2024. I'll come back to that, Mr. Chair. We'll just very quickly compute the figures. Let me move, Mr. Chair, to my next topic. I would just like to ask Attorney Sanchez again on a different topic. Attorney Sanchez, what is the largest check amount that you have signed off on during your tenure with the OVP?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, it would be the 125 million pesos for confidential fund, Your Honor.
So 4 times.
Yes, Your Honor.
4 checks worth 125 billion.
Yes,
If
Your
we
Honor.
may please show Comsec the 4 checks. So this is the first check dated December 20, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's the first. The second check dated January 31, 2023.
Yes, Your Honor.
The third check, April 18, 2023.
Yes, Your Honor.
And the last check being July 13, 2023.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Sanchez. Attorney Sanchez, given the large amount and given that these are the highest you've ever signed in terms of the amount, did you hesitate at all to sign these checks?
Your Honor, I did the usual process, which is to review the documents attached to the check, the supporting documents for payment, Your Honor.
So can you say that you performed the necessary diligence checks prior to signing these?
Yes, Your Honor.
Kasi kung yun yung pinakamalaking mga cheque na pinirmahan mo sa buong, siguro buong career niyo po ba? Tama po ba? Bukod sa OVP?
Yes,
Siguro
Your
po mas magiging maingat po kayo. Opo. Kasi po, napansin ko lang po, kung titignan po natin, kung ibabangga po natin yung date ng cheque doon po sa disbursement voucher, parang napakabilis po kasi ng processing. So, yun po siguro, kaya doon ko po siguro tatanungin kung nagawa po talaga yung necessary diligence check. So, let me first go to the first disbursement voucher. If you may please show that, Comsec. While we're waiting for it to be flashed, the first disbursement voucher was prepared in December 20. And by the end of the same day, the disbursement voucher was not only certified, verified, and approved, but in fact, the correspondent check amounting to 125 million was already issued and received by the special disbursement officer by the end of the day. So, siguro po, Comsec, if we may please show the disbursement voucher. Thank you very much, Comsec. Here, siguro po kaya ko po tinatanong yung bilis nung pag-process po nung disbursement voucher. Makikita po kasi natin dito, there are a lot of different signatories, a lot of different divisions that it would have to pass through for that check to be issued. So as you can see here, it has to be signed by the Vice President, and then after that, it has to be certified by the Chief Accountant, and then it has to go to the approval of Mr. Ortonio, and then thereafter, at saka lang po pupunta sa cash division, and then after that, that's when you and Mr. Ortonio would have to sign it. So if you would count it, you have 4 departments that it would have to go through, if that's correct. So it's the Vice President, it's the Office of the Chief Accountant, it's the Office of Mr. Ortonio, it's the Cash Division Office, before the two of you sign it. And then only then would the check be released and it would have to be received by the Special Disbursing Officer. So siguro po, given that more than 5 people have to sign off on this document, maybe that's why we call into question the speed by which the disbursement voucher was issued. It was issued on December 20. It went through at least 4 departments, at least 5 signatories, 5 to 6 signatories, and the check was created and signed and released and received all by the end of 1 day. So siguro po, given the staggering amount, this is 125 million pesos we're talking about, Mr. Chair, in check form. May you please explain why it was done so expeditiously? Why there seems to be a rush. Before you answer, Attorney Sanchez, let me go back and give the case in point for the second disbursement voucher. This one is dated January 31. Same thing. It went through 4 different departments, 5 to 6 different signatories, and all of that was done. The disbursement voucher was created, certified, approved, sent to the cash division, check issued, check signed, check released, check received, all in 1 day on January 31. So 2 cases in point. If I may pause here, Mr. Chair, and throw the question to Attorney Sanchez and Ms. Villa del Rey, given that you are 2 of the signatories appearing in these 2 documents. Bakit po ang bilis? 125 million pesos po yung amount na pinag-uusapan natin. Pero para pong nagmamadali na ma-issue yung cheque, magawa yung disbursement voucher, ma-issue yung cheque, ma-receive ng Special Disbursement Officer, lahat po sa iisang araw.
Mr. Chair, may I be recognized?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Attorney Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, it is actually a common process for the OVP to process cash advances within 1 day. We prioritize cash advances as generally, Mr. Chair. The way our office is organized, Mr. Chair, is that the accounting and cash divisions are close to each other. So it would not take several hours for the documents to reach the cash division. And my office is also just near the cash division and the accounting divisions, Your Honor, because they are under my office. So in terms of processing, there is nothing unusual for us to be able to process cash advances within 1 day. In fact, in our Citizens Charter, for internal services for cash advances, our usual turnaround time is 1 to 2 days, Your Honor. Also, for the cash advance for confidential funds, there are just a few documentary requirements which are required to be attached to the disbursement voucher. And so it's not very difficult to browse through the documentary requirements, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney Sanchez. May we please pose the same question, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Villa del Rey? Before you certified it
Ms. Villa del Rey, you are recognized.
What diligence checks did you do?
Upon receipt of the disbursement voucher for the issuance of confidential fund, Your Honor, we check the required documents under the joint circular. If it is complete, if it is complete with all the documentary requirements, I certify the portion which is the Annex B of the DB. I'll check the cash availability and check the completion of the supporting documents. And then after that, we transfer it to the cash division.
Mr. Chair, siguro yun po, given the amount in question, sinabi po ni Attorney Sanchez 1 to 2 days. Kaya po, bakit tinapos lahat ng 1 day? Tinitignan ko po yung the dates would be December 20, 2023. That's Thursday. Kaya po ba hinabol? That's a Wednesday. Kaya po ba hinabol kasi gusto niyo po ma-encash by the end of the week? Ganun po ba yun?
Mr. Chair, hindi naman po sa hinabol, but as a matter of course, kapag may cash advance po, we really generally prioritize, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you. If I may move, Mr. Chair, to the fourth disbursement voucher. If COMSEC may please show us. Siguro po here, apart from the speed by which it was issued, perhaps the most glaring, the fourth one po. Thank you, COMSEC. Perhaps the most glaring thing that I would like to note here is at the bottom left corner, you would see that there is no signature under the receipt of payment, meaning the special disbursing officer did not sign that and attest that she received the check. So siguro po, tatanungin ko po, Mr. Chair, ang OVP, paano po nangyari to? Isang 125 million pesos na cheque na hinayaan lang po natin na makalusot yung disbursement voucher nang hindi po pumipirma yung special disbursing officer na nagpapatunay na natanggap niya po yung cheque para sa 125 million pesos. Sino po ang nag-check ng mga disbursement vouchers natin? Ms. Villa Del Rey, as the accountant, is that not under your purview to make sure that these documents are in order po?
Your Honor, for the Annex E, which is the receipt of the check, it is the responsibility of the Cash Division for the issuance of the check to the SDO or to the payee of the disbursement voucher.
Opo, Mr. Villadere, hindi po siya sa issuance of the check. It's the receipt. It's the attestation that that the check has been received by the SDO.
Yes, Your Honor, the receipt of the check. Once receipt ng check po, the claimant or the payee of the DB should sign at the bottom part of the disbursement voucher. So it is the responsibility of the other division who handle the issuance of check.
Ma'am, pakilapit niyo po. Hindi po kayo marinig.
Yes. Again, Your Honor, it is the responsibility of the division who issued the check to the claimant to have it signed.
Wala pong nakapansin na hindi po na-receive ng SDO, hindi po din-receive ng SDO yung disbursement voucher?
No.
Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. Perhaps the correct person to ask is not here with us today. So maybe what I would like to highlight here is there may be some lapses in the internal controls of the Office of the Vice President. If the release of the checks, in terms of looking at the disbursement vouchers and the checks, are not scrutinized thoroughly by the OVP. Ganito po kalaki, as described by Attorney Sanchez, this is the biggest check she has ever signed off on. Pero may problema po sa internal controls dahil po nakakalusot yung mga ganitong lapses na hindi po na-attest ng SDO na nare-release po yung funds. Last question po, before I move on, may I ask po, sorry, Cash Division. Naisip ko lang po, hindi po ba under niyo po yun, yung Cash Division, Attorney Sanchez? So actually, you're here to be able to answer that question. That should be your responsibility to check po.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, when I checked, there are 3 copies of the disbursement vouchers, and only 1 copy is required to be signed by the SDO. The copy that was signed by the SDO was actually retained by the accounting division, and it may not be the same copy that was forwarded to the resident auditor. Nonetheless, we have a copy that was actually signed by the special disbursing officer. In addition, Mr. Chair, as to the matter of internal controls, in addition to the disbursement voucher, there is an additional control in place that requires the special disbursing officer to sign the warrant of checks. That there is a logbook of the checks that is released by the Cash Division. And as far as I am aware, Your Honor, she was able to sign that warrant of checks.
Given that that's the copy that was furnished to COA, may you please furnish this committee with that copy that you're talking about that's signed by, is that Ms. Acosta who signed it?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please furnish a copy to this committee.
We will do, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Chair, since Ms. Acosta is not here, I would like to ask our resource persons present here, would anyone know whether the SDO has a bond, meaning Ms. Acosta has a bond, and if yes, how much? Ms. Villa Del Rey, as the Chief Accountant, would you know?
Yes. Your Honor, for the band of Ms. Acosta, The amount of bond is 8 million for 3 years, Your Honor. It was released through a confirmation letter on November 3, 2022, Your Honor.
$8 million lang po yung bond niya?
That is the amount of bond for a maximum amount of accountability, 500 million, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, do we know what salary grade Ms. Acosta is? Would anyone know on the part of the OVP? Kasi ang laki po nung 500 million po yung maximum.
Your Honor, her position and at salary grade 24. 24, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, for someone who is occupying a salary grade 24 position, 500 million pesos seems to be a huge amount to give in terms of accountability, Mr. Chair. So we just wanted to note that, Mr. Chair, for the record of the committee, that Ms. Gina Acosta actually can disburse up to 500 million pesos as the special disbursing officer. And Mr. Chair, balik lang po ako before I end doon po sa kanina with regard to the satellite offices. So if we compute what percentage the satellite offices take up in terms of the expenses of the OVP. So for 2023, the total GAA amount, the total budget for the OVP is 2.3 billion pesos. And since 1.02 billion pesos po yung expenses associated with the satellite offices, it takes up 45% of the total expenses of the OVP. For the year 2024, so far, out of the 1.9 billion pesos funds of the OVP, the 893 million expenses for the OVP translates to 48% of the total budget of the OVP, Mr. Chair. So napakalaki po talaga, halos kalahati ng the OVP budget, yung tinitake up na satellite offices. So we really need to do a close scrutiny as to whether these satellite offices are necessary and whether they actually contribute to the OVP in terms of fulfilling its mandate, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, those are my questions po. Thank you very much, Ms. Villa del Rey, Attorney Sanchez, Mr. Tenido, and Ms. Rabago for allowing me to propound questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Yes, the next interpellator is Congressman Isidre. You're recognized.
Magandang hapon po, Mr. Chair. Nais ko pong magtanong kay Attorney Rosaline Sanchez. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes,
Attorney Sanchez, ikaw po ay isa sa mga approving officers ng Fidelity Bonds, tama po ba?
yes, Mr. Chair.
Kailan po kayo naging approving officer ng mga Fidelity Bonds?
Mr. Chair, from my assumption to office, Mr. Chair,
Kailan po ito?
July 19, 2022, Mr. Chair.
2022. Attorney Sanchez, siguro pamilyar naman kayo sa purpose ng Fidelity Bonds, no? Ito ay to ensure against losses, shortages, defalcation by officers or employees accountable for public funds. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
In other words, ito ay to ensure na gagamitin sa tama at sa mga specified purposes lamang yung public funds na inassign sa kanila. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, Attorney Sanchez, can you walk us through the process of the Fidelity Bonds? Who determines po ba the value of the Fidelity Bond to be posted by the concerned government employee?
That would be based, Your Honor, on the amount of the liability, the cash advance that would be issued to the Special Disbursing Officer, Your Honor.
So, wala pong guidelines, formula na meron pong guidelines,
May
formula
matrix po yung Bureau of Treasury, Your Honor. And we provide them with a copy of the special order of the disbursing officer, Your
Okay.
Honor.
So, kung may amount na ni-sinet for the Fidelity Bond, ano pong sunod? Yung government employee concerned would post the bond?
That would be the agency, Your Honor, through the accounting division.
Pero magagaling po yung pera sa
The agency, Your Honor.
agency?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
hindi sa empleyado.
Hindi po.
So, paano po sila na po check or cash? Paano yun?
As far as I recall, Your Honor, for the payments to the Bureau of Treasury, it is through LDDAP ADA, so fund transfer, Your Honor, to the Bureau of Treasury.
Pero sino yung tumatanggap ng bond? Si Treasury?
Yes, Your Honor.
From you?
Yes.
In
Your
this
Honor.
case, for all the accountable officers, kayo yung nag-post ng bond?
Yes, Your Honor.
Kayo yung nag-transfer ng bond sa Treasury?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, pag natanggap ng Treasury yung bond, anong ginagawa dito? Pinapasok ba to sa isang account? At kaninong bank account? Separate ba to sa regular account ng agency or dun sa treasury mismo?
Sa Treasury yun mismo, Mr. Chair.
In a
yung,
separate account?
I have no information, Your Honor, kung anong
So how long
process
will
ng
the
Bureau
bond
of
be
Treasury.
held by the treasury? Hanggang kailan hawak ng treasury yung bond?
The bond is for a certain period, Your Honor, and for Ms. Acosta, the bond was for a period of 3 years.
Okay. So paano po siya, ano mangyayari after 3 years na babalik sa agency?
Wala na po, Your Honor.
So nawawala lang yung bond?
Yes, the bond is in the nature of a premium payment para po siyang
Okay.
insurance, Your Honor.
So yun ay nasa treasury na?
Yes, Your Honor.
So hindi siya i-release balik sa agency na pinanggalingan?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So ang kanina na-mention na si Miss Gina Acosta, magkano nga po ang authority niya to release?
500 million, Your Honor.
Pero magkano ang bond niya?
8 million, Your Honor.
8 million. Yung 8 million na yon, ang premium magkano?
Your Honor, I will just confirm based on the documents, Your Honor. Your Honor, we will check the amount that we transferred to the Bureau of Treasury, Your Honor. If we can, Your Honor, maybe just be allowed to submit a copy of the bonding.
Meron akong dito data, baka pareho tayo ng data. It's 360,000 ang binayaran na premium, bond premium.
We will check, Your Honor, from our records.
In any case, ma'am, do you confirm na ito ang nagbabayad, hindi yung empleyado, ang nagbabayad nito yung agency?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this standard procedure po?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, base dun, kasi we have a similar case, no? In the SDO also for DepEd, si Mr. Fajarda, Edward, he has the maximum authority to withdraw cash in the maximum amount of 50 million. Tapos, ang bond niya is 4 million lamang. Well, it's almost the same as with Miss Gina Acosta. Hindi ba dapat proportionate ang bond sa cash advance na dapat pwede niyang ma-withdraw? Di ba dapat ganun?
Yes, Your Honor.
So paano ganito ang nangyari po kay Miss Acosta at kay sabihin na lang kay Edward Fajarda na wala pang 1/4 yung halaga ng ban niya sa total amount na may authority siya to withdraw?
Your Honor, we just base it on the matrix provided by the Bureau of Treasury, Your Honor.
So, pwede kaya nating sabihin, Attorney Fajarda, Mr. Chair, na itong matrix na to, sabihin na lang natin, depending on your expert opinion, having been in this position for quite some time, na dahil ganito ang matrix, hindi nagiging effective na deterrent yung bond requirement, especially for special disbursing officers. Kasi kung tutuusin, di ba? Hindi naman ganun yung kalaki yung bond mo, tas ganun kalaki yung pera na hawakan mo. Tama po? Would you agree with me?
Your Honor, my understanding is that the purpose of the bond is to cover the liability or accountability of the special disbursing officer in case there would be irregularities in the use of the fund, Your Honor.
Tama, I agree with you. Kaya nga kung titignan natin, like for example, nung previous hearing, nakasama yung mga kaibigan natin mula sa AFP no, na sinabi nila wala naman silang natanggap na pera from the YLS. Pwede nating masabi na okay lang na hindi gamitin for public funds yung pera. Kasi total, hindi naman, dahil mababa naman yung bond requirement, wala naman technically mawawala sa agency o anuman. Kaya ang chances ng technical malversation mas mataas. Kasi hindi nga effective deterrent yung bond requirement para isipin ng mga tao na, especially for accountable officers na, wag natin gawin to kasi this is the bond requirement involved. Kahit nga sa kanina pa, siguro the same observation ni Congresswoman Swansing, no? Napakalaki ng authority na cash advance. Tapos ang bond requirement, 8 million lang. Yung kay Mr. Fajardo, 50 million, 4 million lang ang bond requirement. As the head director for accounting, don't you think that we need to increase the matrix for fidelity bond requirement so that it becomes more effective as a deterrent for malversation?
Your Honor, as to that matter, I would submit to the wisdom of the Bureau of Treasury, Your Honor.
No, I mean, sa'yo, based on your experience, don't you think there's a need to increase this? So that, anyway, this is in aid of legislation, no? So we can also propose it to the Bureau of Treasury later on to review the matrix for setting fidelity bonds, the fidelity bond requirement. Would you agree with me na sobrang baba ng ating hinihingi for fidelity bond requirement despite the amounts in consideration?
I would agree, Your Honor.
Thank you, Attorney. Attorney, babalikan ko lang yung statement mo kanina. Kasi medyo naintriga ako sa statement mo. How long have you been with OVP? Since 2022? Correct?
July 19, 2022, Your Honor.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, yung COA report, you mentioned kasi dito for the years 2022 and 2023, the OVP has received unmodified or unqualified opinions in COA's annual audit reports. Correct me if I'm wrong, the 2022 COA report referred to expenditures incurred in 2021. Tama po ba?
Your Honor, I was referring to the 2022 annual audit report for the year 2022, Your Honor.
Okay. So, hindi siya audit report for 2022? Audit report siya for expenses in 2022?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, ito siya, yung 2020, hindi siya 2021, hindi siya COA report for 2021?
No, Your Honor.
Merong isa dito na point na sinabi mo, the COA evidence-based reports on the financial position of the OVP for the years 2022 and 2023 shows the OVP's commitment to transparency and accountability based on existing audit and accounting rules and regulations. Tanong ko po, bilang isang career official, don't you think that the ability of career officials to demonstrate or to realize their commitment would also depend on the willingness of the principal to enforce the same? Kasi nakailang VP na po kayo?
Your Honor, I only joined the OVP during the term of Vice President Sara Duterte.
Si Ma'am Julieta po yung 7 VPs.
Yes, Your
Ma'am,
Honor.
don't you think for this, no, as career officers, don't you think that despite your willingness to submit to accounting rules and regulations, malaki pa rin ang role ng principal? It really depends on the principal. In the end, it depends on the willingness of the principal to enforce the same. Having been a part of the OVP for the longest time.
No, Your Honor, kasi ang processing po in compliance with existing rules and regulation on the disbursements of fund is not based on the decision of the head of the agency, Your Honor.
But the decision to have confidential funds eventually is the decision of the principal, right?
I think so, Your Honor.
In which case, previous vice presidents did not have or chose not to have access to confidential funds, practically for the reason that it would have demonstrated more accountability and transparency if they use regular MOOE or other regular funds. Tama po ba?
Tama po.
And in this case, the decision of the vice president to use confidential funds for items that could be considered under MOOE casts a doubt on the willingness of the principal to enforce accountability in her office. Tama po ba?
Hindi ko po siya masasagot, Your Honor.
Pero sabihin na lang natin na kung gumamit na lang ng regular fund sources for items na klarong-klaro naman, pwedeng MOE ang ginamit at hindi confidential funds, mas madedemonstrate natin ang sinasabing commitment natin to transparency and accountability.
Yes, Your Honor.
Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Congressman Asidre. The next interpellator is Congresswoman Franz Castro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang hapon po sa ating mga resource person. Kanina kasi tinatanong ni Kong Asidre, Mr. Chair, about kay Attorney Sanchez. July 2022 ka napasok po sa OVP. Saan po kayo galing?
I'm from the Commission on Audit, Your Honor.
Okay. So, Commission on Audit. Thank you po. Yung first topic ko po, Mr. Chair, ay yung tungkol doon sa pagbabudget. So, sa budget muna tayo, no? Noong 2022, involved ba kayo, Mr. Chair, sa ating dalawang sa budget, sa budgeting ng Office of the Vice President?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Buong ng 2022. Kailan kayo napasok po sa OVP?
I have been with the OVP since 2014.
Okay. How about Ma'am Edeline?
I have been with OVP since 2017, ma'am.
Okay, so matagal na kayo no sa OVP. So na-involve kayo doon sa pagbabudget ng 2022 budget ng Office ng Vice President. Kay syempre galing ito sa 2021 na budgeting, 'di ba? Yung 2022 budget ginawa yan ng 2021. Okay, so yung mga So ang ibig sabihin nun, Mr. Chair, doon sa budgeting na yan, wala pang confidential funds noon.
Wala po. During preparation ng FY 2022 budget on FY 2021, wala pong confidential funds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And then, nung naging VP na si Vice President Duterte, Sara Duterte, noong July 1, at nag-request siya ng confidential funds for the Office of the Vice President, na-consult ba ang budget unit?
Yes, ma'am. We were consulted insofar as the preparation of the request letter is concerned.
What request letter?
During that time, ma'am,
Yung request letter to the Office of President?
to
Ganun
the
ba yun?
DBM po, Mr.
To
Chair.
the DBM. Okay. So, doon po sa preparation ng letters, so syempre, nag-request ng budget, 125 for confidential funds. Pero alam niyo po saan gagamitin itong confidential funds as far as budget unit is concerned.
Doon lang po siya sa activity na safe implementation of OBP programs and projects and confidence building.
Pero that time, ano po ba yung mga nakalagay doon sa sulat? Kasi nakita ko naman yung sulat ng request ng Office of the Vice President to the DBM, yung request ng budget for 125, yung attached. Ano nga yung mga activities na yon? Can you enumerate, Mr. Chair?
Wala Mr. Chair, doon po sa letter, can I just read the portion of the letter, ma'am?
Yeah,
Apo.
okay.
Confidential funds for and in consideration of the safe implementation of the various projects and activities under the Good Governance Program and the conduct of official engagements and functional representation in international and domestic events, as instructed by the President, the CF amount of 250 million is hereby requested.
Yeah, yung 250 million ang request, pero ang nag-grant ay 125.
That's correct po, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Okay. Pero yung mga, Mr. Chair, yung mga projects and programs na yon under yung 125 million, mga project pa ito which was conceptualized during the Vice President Robredo, right? O meron siyang ipinasa si Vice President Duterte na iba pang mga programs that would cover yung confidential funds?
Insofar as the projects, ma'am, I think I would say the projects of the then Vice President and the new Vice President during that time is almost similar. These are all social services, medical and burial, the livelihood, the disaster operations, and the likes.
Yes. Okay. So ibig sabihin, wala siyang idinagdag na programs aside from doon sa which was budgeted during the time ng 2021.
Yes, and as far as I recall, ma'am, wala namang pong unique or kakaiba na ginawa during the second period of 2020.
Yes. So, Mr. Chair, ang sunod na tanong ko, di ba kayo nagtaka? Kasi during the stint of the Vice President Robredo, wala siyang confidential funds in implementing the various projects, no? Pero ito, last quarter na lang ay nag-request pa ng confidential funds. Did you not question it?
No, ma'am. However, in every implementation of programs, part of the to ensure the successful implementation is the peace and order or security. That's my personal opinion, ma'am.
Yes.
As budget officer.
Oo. Kung titignan natin yung security, peace and order security, magbigay ka nga ng example ng project noong panahon ni Vice President Robredo na sinasabi mo ay peace and order security. Kasi katulad nito, yung program ng Vice President ni BP Sara, kahit na yung sa libreng sakay or sa kasi dito sa Quezon City, massive yung libreng sakay. Pero tingin ko naman, di naman yung ginamitan ng confidential fund ng LGU, no? Through Mayor Belmonte. Pero ito, magbigay ka nga ng example ng panahon ni Robredo, Mr. Chair, na sinasabi mo na kailangan ng peace and order, pero hindi naman nagkaroon ng amount ng confidential funds para to implement it successfully.
Well, during the time of Vice President, I'm not saying po na may component ng security or peace and order, but heavily focused po sila talaga sa developmental works and partnership. Hence, nagkaroon po nung COVID operation at the latter part of her term po.
Yes, okay. Tama. And syempre, alam naman natin yung confidential funds, di ba? It's a fund na pag-gather ng mga confidential information, di ba? Kung may sakali, tsaka kung sakaling may problema sa security and others. Pero kung titignan natin, Mr. Chair, malaking kaibahan talaga, no? Na kung sakaling, kumbaga, etong panahon ni Vice President Duterte, Sara Duterte, may ganito kalaki, no? Na confidential funds na ginamit dun sa program. So would you know, ano kaya yung, ano-ano mga programs dito, o lahat ba ng programs ng OVP nung panahon ni Sara Duterte, dun sa 125, anong mga programs doon yung ginamitan ng confidential funds? Kasi sinasabi mo, Mr. Chair, sinasabi ng ating resource person na parehas lang naman, no? Kung ano yung project ni Vice President Robredo noong 2022, yun din naman yung ipinatupad ni Sara Duterte. So, ano-ano dito yung mga programs na ginamitan ng security and...
Apologies, Mr. Chair, but I have no knowledge po on the utilization of the confidential fund.
Well, I beg to disagree, Mr. Chair. Hindi ko tinatanggap yung sagot. Kasi budget officer ka, nag-request kayo ng letter for 250 million confidential funds, 125 yung ginrant, Mr. Chair. Pero dapat ang budget, alam nyo kung saan niya gagamitin yung 125. Kasi, Mr. Chair, talagang dito kasi, nung nagkaroon na ng audit, di ba, dinis-allow yung 73 million. So, dapat ini-ensure ng budget na yung mga paggagamitan nito ay itemized at alam nyo kung saan gagamitin. So, don't you think you are accountable to this? Kasi parang pinabayaan nyo lang na mag-budget ng 125 na hindi nyo naman alam saan gagamitin yan. Kasi reward payment, 10 million, disallowed. Payment for various goods, 34.8 million, disallowed. Payment for reward and medicine, 24.9 million, disallowed. So, yung mga 3 million for tables, computers, and disallowed. So, bakit pinayagan ng budget unit ng OBP na may ganito na wala man lang justification?
Ma'am, if I may, Mr. Chair, yung participation po ng budget division, mahabang proseso po yung pag-request ng CF to paano nagkaroon ng cash advance hanggang mag-grant yung cash advance, hanggang mag-utilize po siya and hanggang ma-liquidate.
Hindi, yes. Ang pinag-usapan lang natin yung cover ng inyong responsibility as budget.
Okay, ma'am.
Kaya ang tanong ko sa budget unit ng Office of the Vice President, pag nag-request kayo, may mga justification kayo, di ba? Sa confidential fund. Ayan, nakalagay kasi sa Mr. Chair, sa JC, kung saan lang pwedeng gamitin yung confidential funds. At yan ay naka-itemize yan talaga. At strictly, doon lang talaga gagamitin. Kahit na sinasabing for reward, for, ano pa ba yun? For buying of information, for other supplies, etc. Dapat merong merong itemization.
Ma'am, wala po siya, hindi po siya available at the time nung nag-request na po ng cash advance. Ang attachment na lang po nung request for the cash advance nung CF is the Physical and Financial Plan, which was also submitted to DBM during the time of request ng OVP to DBM.
So don't you think it's anomalous or error or talagang sa umpisa pa lang ng concept ng pag-request ninyo ng reward ng confidential funds, sa tingin ninyo sa level niyo pa lang ay parang mali na? Kasi alam ko, Mr. Chair, wala si Mr. Chair. So alam ko, Mr. Chair, napakahigpit natin doon sa pagbabudget. Talagang binubusisi natin saan siya talaga gagamitin. Pero dito sa confidential funds, parang naging lenient ba tingin niyo ang unit ng budget?
Ma'am, kasi yung Physical and Financial Plan po, signed by the accountable officer, noted by the Finance Service Director, and then signed by the Vice President. So we merely relied po doon sa content ng Physical and Financial.
Ano ba nakalagay sa Physical and Financial Plan? Ano-anong mga activities yon? Na bigla kayong na-convince na kailangan nito ng confidential funds, kailangan nito na makapag-hire tayo ng mga informant, mag-ano ng safe houses.
Ma'am, yung under PAP po na Good Governance Program, Mr. Chair, and then yung next column po niya, expected outcome is safe implementation of OVP initiatives and confidence building. And then yung portion
Anong particular na yun? OVP o OVP? Anong particular na activity yun para mapatupad yung sinasabi yung programs and projects?
OVP initiatives pertains po dun sa mga projects na ini-implement po during that time, ma'am.
Doon sa fourth quarter?
Upon the assumption of the Vice President, ma'am.
Hindi, kasi ito, fourth quarter itong pinag-uusapan natin eh. Anong mga programs ng OVP, Mr. Chair, yung tinutukoy na magwawarrant ng 125 million na confidential funds? Ano-ano to?
Based on the PFP, ma'am, the Physical and Financial Plan, it's only the Good Governance Program.
Under sa good governance program, ano-ano itong mga program?
Wala na pong nakaspecify, ma'am, sa Physical and Financial
Well,
Plan.
so Mr. Chair, no, doon pa lang talagang nakikita na natin, no, talagang very lenient. Hindi naka-specify. 125 yan, Mr. Chair. So hindi ba na-realize ng office ng yung unit ng budget na napakalaking halagan? Don't you think you are accountable dito? Kasi, Mr. Chair, dahil meron ng notice of disallowances, don't you think you are accountable to this? Kung sakali na hindi ito ma-justify, at ito nga nakikita na natin yung mga misuse nito, don't you think, Mr. Kevin, you are accountable to this? Kasi part ka nung nagpirma dun sa mga budget na yan. Tsaka yung...
Based po dun sa joint circular, the accountability of accountable officer would depend dun sa degree of participation.
Yeah. Okay. So, hindi, ikaw, tingin mo ba may accountability ka rito?
Well, ma'am, as a budget officer, yung pinirmahan ko po is, na sinecertify ko po na may allotment na na-receive ang OVP insofar as confidential expense is concerned, ma'am. Which na-release naman po yung SARO, so that's my basis po to sign na may...
How about yung accountability mo nung hindi mo ginamit yung iyong, ano man tawag dito, yung discernment or yung inyong pag-analyze saan gagamitin ito. Kasi doon pa lang talaga magsisimula yung pag-grant. Otherwise, hindi na-grant ito kung nabusisi mo ng husto o nabusisi ng husto ng budget unit ng OVP ang paggagamitan nito. Remember 11 days lang ito na na-implement itong mga programs na ito. 105 activities, no, nakalagay dito, no, na inatinan mismo ng Vice President. Ano-ano itong mga 105 activities na nakalagay diyan? Nakita mo ba to? Yung 105 activities, saan?
No, Mr. Chair.
Paano? O, di ba? So talagang tingin ko, Mr. Chair, meron ding pananagutan dito, no, yung budget unit dahil sa pag-approve, no, o yung pag-certify na merong budget na request, no, sa kung saan man yan na request, no, sa Office of the President, etc. Okay, next, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sir Kevin. Dito po, Mr. Chair, sa notice of disallowance, naka-attention po dito, Mr. Chair, si Ma'am Julieta Villa del Rey. Tama po ba? Nakita niyo po ba itong August 8, 2024 na ND?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. So, as a chief accountant, ano po yung papel ninyo po sa confidential funds?
As Chief Accountant, Your Honor, I ensure, in the processing of issuance of cash advance, and I ensure that it is covered by allotment, it is covered by approved banding. There is a special order that designating the special disbursing officer. I think
So, okay, dito kasi, Mr. Chair, sa notice of disallowance, na may attention si Ma'am, si Chief Accountant Villa del Rey, you were asked, you were directed by the COA, since you are liable to, nakalagay kasi dito, no, may I read, please direct the aforementioned persons liable to settle immediately the said disallowance. Audit disallowances not appealed within 6 months from the receipt thereof shall become the final executory as prescribed under Section 48 and 51 of PD 1445. So, naintindihan niyo po ba yung last sentence dito, Mr. Chair? Since kasama kayo, no, sa mga persons responsible, aside from Vice President Duterte, si Gina Acosta, at unfortunately, Mr. Chair, si Ma'am Villa del Rey as Chief Accountant, no, for 34 years, tama ba? Chief Accountant po kayo for 34 years in the public service. So kung ito po ay talagang mapapind out natin at magkaroon in the proper forum pa, so handa ba kayo, Mr. Chair, na maging responsible dito sa 125 million just in case, no, na hindi talaga ito ma-justify. At tingin natin nagkaroon ng misuse ng fund dito sa confidential funds. Handa ka ba, Mr. Chair?
depending on my participation, Your Honor, on the concerned subject of the disallowance.
Yes, oo, kasi kasama ka dito eh, no? Malaki yung papel, Mr. Chair, ni Miss Villa del Rey. At ano ba tingin mo yung pwedeng maging parusa po dito? Mr. Chair, as an accountable officer to this?
Your Honor, may I reiterate na ang aking pong participation is for the issuance of cash advance. When it comes to utilization and disbursement, it is the sole responsibility of the Special Disbursing Officer.
Yes, oo, pero nakalagay dito, so sa liquidation ba, part ka rin nung pagli-liquidate? Kasi inuutusan din kayo dito ng COA, di ba? To liquidate it for the last 6 months. So ibig sabihin nun, ang participation mo, although ini-insure mo, ito ay merong, as you mentioned earlier, pero di ba dapat ini-insure mo rin na yung paggagamitan ng pera ay tama?
Your Honor, ang taking up po ng liquidation sa books of accounts is based solely sa receipt transmittal, stamp receive ng ICPAW doon sa transmittal letter ng mga liquidation documents.
Okay. So, tingin mo wala kang pananagutan dito sa pondo na ito just in case na magkaroon ng mga kaso or
Personally, Your Honor, none.
so personally wala kang pananagutan dito?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, I tingin ko meron, no? Okay, so hindi na tayo magpapalawig doon. Mr. Chair, at itong well, ano na po ang status ng liquidation nito? Kasi parang binibigyan kayo ng 6 months, no? From August 2024. So ano na po yung hindi. Ilan po bang yung araw na or months you were permitted to submit yung liquidation? 180.
180 days.
Okay, ano na po yung status nito?
I don't have knowledge po of the status of the appeal or the reply to the notice of disallowance, Your Honor.
Pero nakapirma ka po dito eh. Nakapirma ka doon sa at accountable officer kaya according to the COA, di ba?
Yes, Your Honor, but as I read the notice of disallowance, the concern of the disallowance is on the disbursement and utilization of confidential fund.
Okay. So, thank you, Ma'am Villa del Rey. Mr. Chair, thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The Chair would like to recognize the Honorable Congresswoman Janet Garin as the next interpellator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang hapon po sa ating mga resource person. Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, I would like to pursue the line of questioning on the possibility that there seems to be a misunderstanding of how confidential funds are being utilized. No? Kasi sa pananaw ko po, ito po ay isang bagay na dapat matuldukan kung yung ating pa pong mga empleyado at kawani sa gobyerno ay naiintindihan ang purpose ng confidential and or intel funds para naman po hindi na maulit ang ganitong mga situation. So, Mr. Chair, earlier, if I may be allowed to take off from the line of questioning of our distinguished colleague, the Honorable Franz Castro. Narinig ko rin po kasi kanina nung sinabi ni Mr. Tenido, Mr. na they were preparing, you were involved, sir, in the preparation of the budgets, right?
Yes.
Yes. Can you enlighten this August body? Can you define confidential funds?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Kelvin Tenido.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the joint circular, ma'am, confidential funds is to be used for the confidential activities such as surveillance. This is available for civilian government office in relation to the performance of their mandate, ma'am, Mr. Chair.
So confidential funds will be used for the surveillance activities of civilian government agencies to fulfill their mandate. And when we talk about activities, surveillance activities in relation to confidential funds, does this refer to the regular programs of the agency concerned? Or does this refer to programs related to insurgency and other threats to national security?
It's in relation, ma'am, with the mandate of the office, ma'am.
In relation to the mandate of the office?
Yes, ma'am.
And in this case, we're referring to the office of the Vice President or DepEd?
Office of the Vice President, Mr. Chair.
So which specific mandate, alin po doon sa mandato ng Office ng Vice President ang nangangailangan ng pondo ng confidential funds?
In case of OVP, it is really the operations, the general operations of the OVP, and with the.
Can you put the microphone nearer po?
In case of OVP, this is for the operations of the projects and activities of the OVP. the entirety of the...
So how do you differentiate, Mr. Chair, yung pondo for the regular programs of the OVP vis-a-vis the confidential funds?
Confidential fund or confidential expenses, as they labeled it as in the GAA, is part of the overall budget of the OVP. The confidential expense or the confidential fund is not a separate item on top of the either good governance or socio-economic program delivery. It is within that program, ma'am.
So, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues, ang pagkaintindi ko, ang sinasabi po ni Mr. Tenido, itong budget is the regular budget, and ito namang confidential fund is another budget that seems to be an augmentation of the agency budget. Yan po ang pagkaintindi niya, sir.
Can you repeat, Mr. Chair? Sorry.
Ang pagkaintindi ko po, Mr. Chairman, dun sa sagot ni Mr. Tenido, yung confidential funds appears to be an augmentation of the existing funds of the department concerned or the office concerned. So, Mr. Chair, I believe this is where the problem lies. Kasi tila, pasensya na po, no? Tila hindi naiintindihan nung mga naghahawak ng pondo kung para saan ang confidential funds. I really didn't want to ask questions. Pero kanina ko pa kasi naririnig, Mr. Chair, paulit-ulit, tila umiikot po tayo, hindi natutuldukan. Either there is an intention to deviate from what should be discussed, either that is unintentional or intentional. Kasi sa pagkakaintindi ko, at sa sinabi naman inamin ni Mr. Tenido, ang confidential funds ay ginagamit for surveillance activities of civilian government agencies. And that is different from intel funds because it's the same thing, surveillance activities for military personnel and intel practitioners. Parang ganun po. In other words, ang confidential fund ay gagamitin mo sa surveillance activities ng opisina kaakibat sa mga programa in relation to either terrorism and other activities that pertains to threats to national security. Can you confirm this, Mr.
Yes,
Tenido?
Mr. Chair, I confirm.
So, kinukumpirma niyo po ang sinasabi ko. Ulitin ko lang, Mr. Chair, no? So that we will be on the same road path.
Yes, please continue.
Okay. Linawin natin. Kasi kanina tila ang mga napag-uusapan, yung confidential funds ay pondo sa departamento ng Office of the Vice President and other civilian agencies that is dealing with specific programs and projects. Pero tila ang nakakalimutan, this is in relation to activities that pertains to either insurgency and other threats to national security. Do you confirm that, sir?
I
Sorry.
confirm, ma'am. I confirm, ma'am, based on the joint circular.
So on the joint circular, merong purpose. So nasabi niyo rin po kanina na kayo po ang gumawa ng proposal or justification. If I may quote nga, you also mentioned, napakahaba ng proseso ng budget process at hindi madali ang inclusion ng confidential funds in an agency, either the OVP, DepEd, or other government agencies. Tama po ba, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. When you proposed the budget of confidential funds item in the Office of the Vice President, ano po ang specific programs and activities?
For fiscal year 2023, Mr. Chair, programs, activities, and projects, or PAPs, it's socio-economic program delivery, expected outcome, safe implementation of OVP initiatives and confidence building, and the success indicators for all the quarters of 2023. First is number of identified areas with surveillance conducted and monitored. Second, percentage of activities implemented without untoward security-related incidents. This is in reference to the fiscal and financial plan for fiscal year 2023 submitted to DBM.
So, Mr. Chair, dun po sa sagot niyo, sir, ano po ang specific item doon that is related to national security threat?
There is no express, ma'am, statement on the fiscal and financial plan, and we merely relied on how the fiscal and financial plan was drafted and approved.
Pakiulit po nung sagot niyo, you relied on how?
On how the fiscal and financial plan was prepared and approved, ma'am.
Is it not that this is prepared by your office as part of the budget and
No.
admin office?
No, ma'am, it is prepared by the project accountable officer based on the template attached to the joint circular.
Tapos dumadaan ito sa inyo kasi ikaw ang magpropose sa DBM.
Kukunin ko na lang po siya, ma'am, once for submission
Okay?
to DBM. And once we receive, approve na po ito ng head of agency.
So kukunin mo siya at isasubmit mo sa DBM. Tama po ba?
Yes, ma'am.
Pag kinuha
Yes,
mo
Mr.
siya at sinubmit sa DBM, ano po, talagang parang clerical work lang, hindi mo na nire-review?
Well, I'll just check the amount if consistent with the...
How about the description?
The
Hindi po ba parte yan ng iyong trabaho?
Yes, ma'am, but the plan is already approved by the head of agency.
So what is your role then? Kasi salary grade ano po kayo, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Salary grade 24, ma'am.
So pag salary grade 24, nasa magkano po ang
Now
salary
po,
plus allowances sa ngayon po?
with the latest salary table, nasa 95 po.
So, Mr. Chair, we have heard a government official receiving approximately 95,000 per month. At ang naririnig ko sa sinasabi po ni Mr. Tenido, tinatanggap niya ang papel at pinapasa sa DBM. May we remind our good resource person, pasensya na po, with position and with responsibility comes accountability. So I cannot accept the reason na tinanggap mo lang, tapos pinasa mo sa DBM kasi deemed approved na siya. Because if you look at the purposes that were being mentioned, I cannot pinpoint even in this lightest idea the link between national security threat and the PAPs that was mentioned by the Honorable Tenido. Tila po, Mr. Chair, yung justification is not for confidential funds. It was mere performance of the duties of the Office of the Vice President. At sa pagkakaintindi ko, this runs in contrast to the intention of the specific line item. Tama po ba ako, sir?
I can agree, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So may I ask also at Attorney Sanchez, so ma'am, you came from COA before po kayo napunta sa Office of the Vice President. Let's pursue the same line of questioning. Pag meron pong confidential fund, ang confidential fund by the joint circular is defined as funds, it's to fund surveillance activities for anti-terrorism, drugs, or other situations where there is national security threat. And this is performed by civilian agencies. Okay. Coming from the Commission on Audit, kung tanggalin po natin yung iyong position in the Office of the Vice President, when an agency requests for funds from the national coffers of our government, hindi po ba ay merong specific na paggagamitan ito?
Yes, Your Honor. For the regular fund, it is required to be very specific, Your Honor.
Okay. Kapag gumamit ka ng confidential fund, magkaiba ba ito sa pinagagamitan sa regular activities ng opisinang pinanunungkulan nyo?
Your Honor, it should be different from the regular activities because that is the reason why it has to be separate fund, Your Honor.
Okay. And in this case, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, and the Honorable Resource Person, kay Attorney Sanchez, nagawa po ba yun o hindi?
Your Honor, as to the budgeting, Your Honor, based on what was submitted, it is different from the regular programs and projects of the
Ano
OVP.
po ang difference, ma'am? Because I was hearing earlier, it pertains to, if, Mr. Chair, can we request Mr. Tenido to reiterate his earlier statement? My understanding earlier was that you mentioned that when you submit and requested for funding under confidential funds, it was for the purpose of the Vice President being able to accomplish her duties and mandate.
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr.
So,
Chair.
what specific mandate are we referring to?
This is the operations of the OVP, ma'am.
Which specific operational item? I mean, which specific
yes.
activity? Kasi if we say operations of the Vice President's office, it can actually refer to all the tasks that she performs together with the President. It's quite vague. Sa pananaw niyo po ba, pag pinapadala niyo sa DBM yun, ina-approve or hinahanapan kayo ng specifics?
Can you repeat, Mr. Chair? I'm sorry.
Kapag kayo ay nagre-request ng pondo sa DBM, hinahanapan ba kayo ng specifics or details or hindi?
Yes, there are instances po that the DBM requests for additional documents, additional details.
Okay. In this case, ano po ang naging justification? I mean, Mr. Chair, just for the record, I'm not saying that it's disallowed. I'm just pointing to the fact na kaya tayo nagkakagulo at nalilito lahat kasi apparently it seems that some officials in the particular office are not aware of how they should use or utilize confidential funds, nor are they aware of the difference between confidential funds and or regular funds of the agency or MOOE. So pwede po ba tayong maliwanagan doon?
During the request, ma'am, Nag-reply lang po ang DBM with our request to submit a physical and financial plan. The request was submitted on
What was contained in your submission?
the one I read earlier, ma'am. The
Confidence building.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, medyo nagugulat po ako kasi pasensya na po, sir. I don't want to mean any harm. But I think this should be corrected. Kasi you requested, let's say, 500 million confidential funds. And the purpose is confidence building. Ano po ba yun? Kasi naririnig ko po yung confidence building, Mr. Chair, kapag kakandidato ka sa Miss Universe, yung mga pageant, di ba parang nagtitrain tayo para maging confident sila sa paglakad, sa pagsagot. So, if it is in relation to confidence building in the office of the Vice President, how do we link this to threats on national security? So much so, nagagastos tayo ng 500 milyon para sa confidence building. Kaninong confidence po ang binibuild up? Sino-sino po ang nagiging participants nito? Ano po ang naging outcome? Naging mas magaling ba yung ating mga empleyado na nag-underwent ng confidence building? Ano ang naging kakayahan nila ikumpara nung kapanahunan na wala pang pondong ganito?
Mr. Chair, for the time at the time of the request, the indicators reflected in the physical and financial plan are the number of identified areas with surveillance conducted and monitored. And then the second one is the percent of activities implemented without untoward security-related incidents, ma'am. This is all in relation to the OVP's activities for all and in all satellite offices, ma'am.
Kaya nga, Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Chair, bumalik po tayo, sir, doon sa para saan po ba ang confidential funds? Ang confidential funds ay para sa mga activities kung saan binabantayan natin ang kapakanan ng taong bayan against national security threats, kagaya ng terorismo, droga, outbreaks, pandemics. Tama po ba, sir?
I agree, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And in this case, ang sabi ngo niya is confidence building in targeted areas with no untoward incidents. Pasensya na po, sir, kasi masyado pong vague
Yes, ma'am.
ang sagot nyo. And this vagueness can be interpreted, Mr. Chair, in two possibilities. One is that you are avoiding answering the question, or two, possibly talagang may misunderstanding on how confidential funds should be utilized. And that is why we are in this mess now.
Okay.
So alin po doon ang sinasabi niyong, you mentioned about no untoward events or incidents. Ano pong untoward incidents ang hinahanap natin sa satellite offices na hindi dapat mangyari, na na-curtail or na-prevent ng confidential funds?
I cannot give a definite statement, ma'am, because I just relied with the physical and financial plan, and I cannot interpret it in such a way na.
But Mr. Chair, Your Honor, kayo po ang nagsasubmit sa DBM. Kung ako po ang official na magsasubmit sa DBM, hindi po ba pag-submit ko noon ay nakasaad doon ang mga activities na gagawin at ano ang objective? Di ba para anong tawag doon? PAP? Yeah. What does PAP stands for, Mr. Chair?
Programs, activities, and projects.
So, programs, activities, and projects. Kunyari, yung programs, activities, and projects mo doon is counter-insurgency, anti-drug abuse, prevention of outbreaks, epidemics, and pandemics. Tapos yung pondo, 500 billion. Di ba meron yung specific outcomes? So, ang specific outcomes mo, sasabihin mong, oh, walang mga terroristic activities. Oh, minimize yung drug use from this percentage to this percentage. O merong nagkasakit pero naagapan, hindi nagka-outbreak. Tama po ba, Mr. Chair, Your Honors?
Tama, Mr. Chair.
So ang tinatanong ko, in the case of the Office of the Vice President, and again, this should be required in all other offices, Mr. Chair, in aid of legislation, alin po doon sa sinasabi nyo ang ganitong pangyayari? Because this is 500 million.
Mr. Chair, yes, Mr. Chair. I cannot pinpoint which ang involve ang confidential activities, but based on the fiscal and financial plan, it is for the safe implementation of OVP initiatives and confidence building. So I would surmise that this applies to all the activities or the initiatives of the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, may we request Mr. Tenedo kindly define confidence building
In my personal, or on how it was
as used?
Ma'am, may iano lang po kami, singit lang ako. Bago po ninyo sagutin yan, gusto ko lang pong malaman, Tinanggap po ng DBM yung justification ninyo?
Yes, sir. After we submit the physical and financial plan, there were no additional comments or additional details that they required for us to submit.
Mr. Chair, just to add on to
Yes,
that,
please.
my understanding is that if an agency submits to DBM, may mga attachments po yun. The mere fact that it refers or pertains to confidential funds, it goes with it without saying that this should be compliant with the joint circular on the utilization of confidential and intel funds. Kaya po yung mga activities na nakasaad doon, yung implementation of OVP initiatives and confidence building should be aligned with the joint circular. Ibig sabihin, yung OVP initiatives nito, kagaya niyang active surveillance ng mga sakit para walang pandemic, or active surveillance ng mga drug pushers sa mga lugar na yon, then these are the activities that we are seeing. But it just confuses me, nalilibog ako, Mr. Chair, kasi malilito ka talaga dahil, ang problema kasi, malilito ka dahil hindi naiintindihan ng mga nagpapatakbo ng Office of the Vice President the difference between regular activities and activities in relation to national security threats. Let's say if we say confidence building, whose confidence are you building?
I cannot interpret on how it was reflected in the physical and financial plan because this
But
was
you submitted this to DBM. So, alam nyo supposedly, or let's say, sabihin na natin, dun sa mga activities na ginawa nyo, or on a personal note, and maybe we can also ask Attorney Sanchez because you came from COA. So if it's about handling activities in the satellite office, although, Mr. Chair, for the record, I do not have objections in the satellite office. The more government offices that we have that can cater to direct services to the people, the better. However, if we are going to use, let's say kung meron tayong social services, burial expenses, food aid, medical aid, kailangan naman talaga ng taong bayan yan. But the problem is that if we're going to use confidential funds for this, the fear of duplication is there. Kaya nga bumabalik tayo, saan ginamit yung pera? Kasi pag confidence building, Mr. Chair, kunyari, sasabihan mo ako, payat ka. Although alam ko namang mataba ako, ang feeling ko, talagang totoong payat siguro ako. But will that have an impact on national security threats? Or is it confidence na sabihin natin, trinain mo yung mga tao para pag nag-gather sila ng information, alam nila na tama yung impormasyong nakukuha nila. But it leads us to another question, how can you gather information if these activities were confined in a satellite office or a mere office, or if it was in relation to distribution of food assistance? In other words, I cannot comprehend, ni hindi ko matuhog at maintindihan yung relationship ng purpose. Para saan ba ang perang ito? Ano ba ang pinagkagastusan? Aligned ba sila? Or is this a case of technical malversation? Yan lang po, Mr. Chair, ang gusto nating maliwanagan because this has to be corrected. So may we ask, I think Attorney Sanchez was raising her hand.
Yes, Mr. Chair. May I
Attorney
be
Sanchez,
recognized?
you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your Honors, my understanding of the term confidence building as used in the physical and financial plan is that the office intends to build that public trust in the government. So we need to make sure that the services of the OVP reach the public. That's why it is for the safe and successful implementation of OVP programs and services.
So, Mr. Chair, pasensya na po, pero mas lalo akong nininervyos sa mga sagot ni Attorney Sanchez. What you are saying is correct in terms of performing the duties of the Vice President. And this can be given even augmentation funds. But what is its relation to confidential funds that is related to national security threats?
Mr. Chair, my understanding is that the use of the actual fund should be limited with what are provided in the joint circular.
And what are the items provided in the joint circular?
that
Please
would-
read the specific section,
Yes,
Mr. Chair, Attorney
So,
Sanchez.
Under item 4.8, the confidential fund shall be used only for the following confidential expenses. Under 4.8.1, that would be purchase of information necessary for the formulation and implementation of program, activities, and projects relevant to the national security and peace and order. Under 4.8.2, rental of transport vehicle related to confidential activities. 4.8.3, rentals and the incidental expenses related to the maintenance of safe houses. 4.8.4, purchase or rental of supplies, materials, and equipment for confidential operations that cannot be done through regular procedures without compromising the information gathering activity concerned. 4.8.5, payment of rewards to informers for non-employees of concerned government agencies, subject to the following conditions. The first one is approval by the head of agency in the case of LGUs and national government agencies.
So in other words, Attorney Sanchez, yung binasa mo, yan ang purpose ng confidential funds. Tama?
Yes, among...
How
two
can you
others.
relate that to confidence building and making the office of the Vice President effective?
So under 4.8.1, Mr. Chair, it is allowed to purchase information to be able to formulate and implement programs.
Okay,
activities,
Madam,
and
Mr. Chair,
projects.
dagdagan ko lang, okay lang po ba? Kapag merong confidence building, are you saying that this is synonymous to purchase of confidential information?
Not necessarily, Mr. Chair,
It's, I believe, Mr. Chair, it's answerable by yes or no. What do you mean by not necessarily?
because there are also other uses, Mr. Chair.
Simplin lang po natin. Yung sinasabi po ninyong purchase of information in relation to national security threats. Is that synonymous? Pareho po ba yan sa confidence building in the Office of the Vice President or hindi?
It can be, Mr.
How?
Chair. If the information that was purchased will be used to
So how
develop
do you
programs-
purchase information when you do confidence building activities, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, the information is purchased to be able to craft programs which would
Mr.
be...
Chair, apologies, but I believe Attorney Sanchez is not answering my question. Napakasimple po ng tanong ko. Ang sinabi niyo po kanina, karamihan ng 500 million ay ginamit niyo sa confidence building. I do not have any objection to that. But my question is very specific. Yung confidence building na yun, paano yon naging payment of rewards, gathering of purchase of information, and safe houses? Ano po ang relasyon nung dalawa? Ibig natin sabihin, itong bote, nilagyan ng tubig. So itong tubig, paano siya mailalagay sa bote? Pinur mo yung tubig, hindi siya lalabas. So the purpose of the bottle is to contain the water so that it will not spill. In this case, this is the 500 million confidential fund. The purpose of this is to prevent outbreaks, epidemics, national security threats, and to protect the sambayanang Pilipino. Ngayon, ano ang relasyon ni itong 500 million na sinasabi mo under the joint circular to the confidence building na ginawa nyo? You're saying purchase of information, safe houses, rewards na pinamigay. Pero sa confidence building, ang alam ko niyan mga seminar, di ba? Yung sasabihin, kaya mo to, pinapatibay ang loob mo. What is the relationship nitong mga seminar na ito, ng mga confidence building activities na ito, dito sa goal nyo na mawala or maibsan ang terorismo sa Pilipinas?
Your Honor, as planned, the confidence building would entail that the projects and programs of the OVP are safely and successfully implemented. Because
Last
the
question,
public-
Mr. Chair. I do hope you will bear with us,
Yes,
Attorney
Mr.
Sanchez.
Sure.
By your looks and by your nature and by your reputation, I know that you have the intellect and the neurons and you know the truth about all of this. Okay. Ang sinasabi mo is for the implementation of the programs of the OVP. Are you not referring to the regular budget and not the confidential budget?
No.
And what differentiates that from each other?
Mr. Chair, no, I am not referring to the regular budget.
Anong diferensya nung? Kasi di ba sinasabi mo, para ma-implement, o gumamit tayo ng ibang opisina, gamitin natin yung Department of Social Welfare and Development. Ano bang mandato ng DSWD para maalagaan yung mga Pilipino sa panahon ng kalamidad? Para maibsan yung gutom, para mayahon yung mga hirap at umangat sa buhay. Am I correct? But
Yes.
if they will be given confidential funds, will that be tantamount to accomplishing those programs or objectives? Or is it tantamount to saying, meron silang confidential fund kasi habang tinutulungan nila yung mga mahihirap, minamarapat rin nila na walang mga drugs na umiikot doon, walang mga sakit na pwedeng maging pandemic doon, or walang mga tao doon na recruit na para sa mga illegal and terrorism activities. Tama po ba?
Sorry, may I be clarified about the question, Your Honor?
Napakasimple po nung sinabi ko. Ito ang DSW. Let's say, ito yung DSWD. Ang mandato nila, mamigay ng tulong kapag may kalamidad. tulungan yung mga mahihirap na merong pangkabuhayan, iangat sila sa antas ng pamumuhay. That is their regular budget, tama?
Yes.
Pag meron siyang confidential fund, dahil ang confidential fund is for the purpose of countering terrorism, preventing threats to national security like outbreaks, pandemics, and even drugs, gagamitin nila yan, siguro kung ando doon sila tinutulungan yung mga mahihirap, na magkaroon din ng information kung sino doon yung mga nagsusupply ng drugs. Or, iso-surveillance naman nila in terms of disease surveillance kasi baka dumarami yan at maging outbreak. Tama po ba?
Yes.
Now, kanina ko papaulit-ulit na naririnig sa inyo to perform the mandate of the Office of the Vice President, to be able to perform the initiatives and confidence building of the Office of the Vice President. What is the difference in that objective that is different from the utilization of the confidential fund?
Your Honor, the objective may be the same, but the specific items intended to be spent on would be different, Your
So
Honor.
sabihin na lang natin, can you categorically point to us what specific OVP mandate are you referring to or OVP initiative?
Your Honor, as planned, it would pertain to all OVP.
So lahat ng OVP activities is related to counterterrorism?
Your Honor, that can be related, Your Honor.
Please be specific.
Uh,
Alin doon?
Your Honor, again, the plan is very general, but in terms of the specific or actual
Kaya nga,
uses-
give us one example. Pasensya na ha, kasi hindi ko rin talaga memorize. Can you explain, can you give us the mandate of the Office of the Vice President?
The mandate, essentially, Your Honor, is to provide socioeconomic services to the people, Your Honor.
So which in the actions in providing socioeconomic services can a national threat happen? Saan, kailan, at paano nagiging national threat sa taong bayan ang trabaho ng OVP?
Your Honor, it can also be in the engagements of the Vice President, Your Honor. But for the specific projects, for example, Your Honor, when we conduct distributions for our projects in some
So when you
areas-
conduct distribution, kunyari may namatay, pag nagbigay ka ng abuloy, tinatanong mo rin yung namatay o meron ba ditong drug pusher, ganun po?
I have no knowledge, Your Honor, on the specific or the actual use, Your Honor, but it can be, and it can also be, Your Honor, part of it.
So pag nagbibigay ka ng abuloy, sasabihin mo, oh, condolence po. So sino po dito sa palibot nyo ang nagsusupply ng drugs, parang ganun po?
Your Honor, with regard to the regular fund of the OVP,
No, we're not talking about the regular fund. We're talking about the confidential fund.
that is possible, Your Honor.
Talaga namang, yeah. So, and then when you provide food aid and medical aid, so this is in the interior areas
Your Honor,
or in the offices.
I am not aware of the actual utilization, Your Honor.
And napansin ko na lang din, in all the quarterly utilization, it pertains to all the same items. Purchase of information, payment of reward. So every quarter, meron kayong binibigyan ng reward.
I have no personal knowledge, Your Honor.
Who can answer that in your team, among the resource persons here?
I don't think there is anyone from us who can answer, Your Honor.
What is the process? When you release funds, di ba before mo sundan yon ng it's cash advance, tama po ba? So
Yes.
nagbigay ka ng cash advance, before mo isunod, sisiguraduhin mong na-liquidate or natapos na yung... So can you give a reward kung wala ka namang parameters by which a reward can be given?
Based
So
on
tanungin kita, kunyari ikaw yung head ng office, meron kang reward na ipamimigay, pero wala ka namang parameters.
based on the joint circular, Your Honor.
No,
there
not
should
based on the
be-
joint circular. I'm asking you directly, as a head of a certain office. Pag magbigay ka ng reward, ibig ba sabihin noon ay meron kang parameters? Let's say example, magbibigay ka ng reward sa mga estudyante. E titingnan mo ba doon, walang absence sa school, ito yung grade na nating, tama po ba?
Yes.
So in this case, meron kayong parameters kung paano magbigay ng reward, tama po ba?
I am not aware, Your Honor.
But then, how can you say that you are giving out rewards every now and then? Kasi yun ang naging justification nyo. Safe houses, how do you define safe houses, Your Honors?
Your Honors, based on the actual utilization, Your Honor, I cannot...
On your personal knowledge as a lawyer.
Your Honor, safe houses are places wherein you could house your informants or people who would need protection, Your Honor.
So in this case, you had informants that you were providing housing on a regular basis.
I have no personal knowledge, Your Honor.
So Mr. Chair, paano po ito kung kunyari nawala ba ang confidential funds ng 2024 or hindi?
We do not have confidential funds.
So
for
paano
2024.
itong mga nilagay nyo sa safe houses, saan sila nilipat?
I have no personal knowledge, Your Honor.
Unless wala kang ililipat kasi wala naman siyang laman, okay lang yon. Kunyari, may mga safe houses, nag-rent kayo ng maraming safe houses, pero walang laman. Kung nawala ang pondo, okay lang yon kasi wala namang laman, Mr. Chair. Pero kung merong laman, syempre, kailangan nyo silang ilipat, di po ba?
That would be a fair assumption, Your Honor.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, pasensya na po, no, medyo humaba-haba lang because I'm really bothered by the fact that we have not ordinary employees, government officials who are supposed to be qualified, but there seems to be amnesia in recalling or defining the difference between a regular budget and confidential funds. And mas nakakabahala po, Mr. Chair, if pag-uusapan natin ang confidence building, if this is confidence building among our athletes or among our Miss Universe contestants, okay po yan. Pero hindi ko pa rin po talaga matuhog ang confidence building vis-a-vis spending 500 million pesos. So with that, Mr. Chair, I hope that as we move forward, the committee can recommend initiatives by which people in these offices will be reoriented. I'm not sure if indeed they do not know, reoriented, or maybe check into how technical malversation can be prevented in the future.
Una-una, nagpapasalamat po ako sa 4 na resource persons po natin na dumalo po kayo ngayon. Kay Ma'am Villa Del Rey, kay Attorney Sanchez, kay Mr. Sorry, the light is shining against your name. Tenido. And kay Ma'am Rabago. So, papasalamat ako sa inyo na nakadalo kayo. It only shows that we don't bite. So there's nothing to be scared, no, in attending the hearings. We just want to ferret out the truth.